Hello, all. I am Peter Abrahamson. I am also known as the Bot Whisperer on the show BattleBots. Welcome to the RoboCast.
Hello everyone, my name is Samuel64 and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the AmericanKilljoy, World of Woodrow DavidofSmeg, and joining us for the third year in a row, Pete Abrahamson, the Bot Whisperer, to talk all things
Thank
bracketology.
you. Nice to be here.
Welcome back, my friend. How have you been?
I've been pretty decent. I have been working quite extensively lately on my day job, not on my BattleBots job, but on the normal job. So that takes a lot out of me, but it's all in all been a pretty good year.
Any projects you can tell us about? Anything in the background?
The main thing I have been working on, and you probably have known this from if you look back at Zoe and Yasha and also Luke, head of our bot inspection, we've all been working on the 10,000 year clock. And I assume you guys know, but Matt Vasquez also works at Applied Invention where I work. So I can throw things at him, Nerf darts and stuff, right? Right across the way.
Excellent stuff. I think another important question is, where have you been, Pete? What's happened to you this season? I've missed the content.
I am now on the YouTubes. If you look over there into the BattleBots channel, you will find a bot whispering playlist. One of the things that had happened with the merger of Discovery and Warner Brothers is Screen Actors Guild, SAG, who is my union, became a little more inspective of what was going on with them. And one of the things that had happened was they had said, hey, you do realize that if you continue this way, that you need to pay, there's a buyout for residuals that are supposed to happen for the international residuals. And they said, Peter, being a member of SAG, needs to be purchased out. Well, my pay is about this big. And I specifically, I went in and we already negotiated and I'm quite happy with this piece. Well, the international buyout was like this piece. And basically it was so big that BattleBot said, we can't afford this. And I was like, I don't want it. This is what I negotiated. We negotiated this much. And this is what I'm comfortable with. You don't need to pay. And it's like, they couldn't, because that was the laws of my union were saying, you must pay this. So in essence, I couldn't be on the broadcast portion of the show as the Bot Whisperer, as Peter Abrahamson, in a sort of talent aspect, like a Chris and Kenny or Farouk. I'm in the background plenty of times. It's not like I can't not be on camera, because I'm still a member of the crew. I still do all of the things I've always done, which, part of the selection committee, selecting new robots, being there to sort of talk with Aaron and Greg and everybody about upcoming fights and how we're gonna deal with rule changes. I'm part of all of that stuff I still do, and of course getting technical data from the builders to Kenny and Chris so that they sound like they know what they're talking about when Kenny never says titanium steel again, right? He actually thinks about things and has a good answer for what's going on in a robot.
Unknown alloy.
Exactly. And so what we could do was we could film me and then put it up on YouTube, because the digital section or the internet-based section of the show didn't have the same buyout needs. So I could do the digital content and do YouTube's, which actually, in a way, has been somewhat better, because I get to have like a 5-minute interview. But some of these interviews actually were way longer than that. They just edited it down to roughly 5 minutes with the builders to go much more in depth into their robot and discuss what they're doing and how they drive, or what technical changes they made to their bot. And I think it's actually been a better way to do what I've always done, rather than just say, oh my God, this wheel that they have, this is going to save the whole match, cut, gone, move on, right? Like that's it.
It's for me. It's, the way I've viewed it this season is like what they've done is they've taken the elements which people like us who want to go, delve a bit deeper and see what's going on behind the scenes. It gives people a way to get an expert talking to the teams, and if people want it, and if they don't want it, they've got more fighty on the show. It's quite a nice balance.
Yeah, and they've already introduced you on the show, so it's not like some rando just going around interviewing all the teams. We already know who the Bot Whisperer is, and we can follow you to YouTube now.
Exactly. And I've really only gotten positive response for what's been going on YouTube. People have actually been like, why hasn't this been on the show? This is what I've been asking for. I wish that there was 5 minutes of this on the show and not 5 minutes of laser eyes. So,
I just want to see Pete with laser eyes now. That's all. That's the one thing I want.
Yeah, hold on. I'll cross my arms. And
unfortunately, the channel is run on a very tight budget. So, will we expect to see you back in the future? Is this a permanent thing, or what's the state of play at the moment?
Unless there is some massive change in a budget, no. Like, I don't think I'll be back on the show in that way again. Like, it's sort of a permanent change.
Okay.
Sadly, I really did enjoy being on the show and being a part of the broadcast, but it's just not gonna. I don't think with the way we get paid by Discovery and all the extra stuff BattleBots has to do to be able to budget for the show, that they could budget me in for that. They could budget Peter to come in and work all the stuff I do behind the scenes, but they can't add that. And I totally get it. I'm not, like I said, I don't want that giant chunk. Like, that wasn't what I feel I deserved. Like that, I would rather, if that giant chunk existed, it went to the builders as more stipend, right? Yeah. Rather than me make more money. I don't need that. But I don't think it'll change.
It's unfortunate.
Hopefully I can do even more in the pits and spend more time with the builders and be able to have more interviews. That would be great.
You're going to run us out of a job.
No, you guys still have a different, it's perfect for what you guys do. I think it's a good blend for all of it to get more data like that out there.
100%. 100%.
Yep.
I don't think is there anything else we need to talk about before we do the 32? Anything else, chaps?
I don't know. Is there?
Not really sure.
No?
I'm kind of want to get stuck in.
Okay, let's get stuck in.
Let's do the bracket.
We've delayed long enough, so we're going to go from 32 down to 1 as we did last year. So let's start off at number. Do you want to do some honourable mentions? Should we do them first?
Let's talk about the robots that went
2 and 2,
1 and 3, and 2 and 2 that were on the bubble but didn't make it. I think.
We'll certainly do the 2 and 2s. So the 2 and 2s was it Valkyrie, Triton, Mammoth, and Shred It, bro.
Yeah.
Any more?
Where was Gruff?
Gruff was 1 and 3
in the end.
1 and 3. Okay.
Yeah, they only beat Ripperoni.
Yeah, I mean,
say only.
Obviously, we saw a couple of years ago. It was the whole P1 should have gone in and not Hypershock, if you remember back, right?
Right.
This year, I've seen a lot less of that. I don't know what you guys have seen other than me, but I haven't seen as much.
For me,
vitriol.
The main thing is that those 2 and 2s, their seasons were not as strong as some other 1 and 3s. Like, the strength of schedule was not as strong, and that is how the bracket is decided ultimately. Whether you have had a good strength of schedule, a strong showing in those fights, whether you have the longevity to work your way through a bracket, etc., etc.
Right.
And I only know all this because we've had conversations with Pete in previous years about
exactly.
But no, looking at it this year, when we saw the bracket and saw those teams not there, it wasn't a case of shock and awe and riot in the streets of Vegas. It was, that's probably fair.
I don't know if anyone had any specific things to say to you, Pete, or did anyone question the decision at all?
No, I did do recently an outside the box with Christine, and we did talk about one of the ones that was on the bubble was sort of Gruff. Like, Gruff could probably withstand surviving the 32. It wasn't like they didn't have a robot that isn't durable enough to handle it. I can't remember what our decisions were of like the bubble bots of every single why we made those choices and how to justify each one. When I look at the bracket, I'm happy with what I see in the bracket. I'm sure there are people that are going to hate me for it, so I just accept that.
I think the only
robot to the internet
that was 1 and 3 who didn't get in was Emulsifier, but I feel that they needed one more particularly strong showing to be able to have that way in, because their strongest showings were like their loss against Fusion was a strong showing, but
their loss against Malice, even though it was a short
Malice
fight,
was a strong showing for them until it wasn't anymore. And
so it wasn't.
Yeah, I think they needed just either one more win or one more strong loss, and that would have thrown it their way. But yeah, it's a tough one for them. But Shatter's in, so
I mean, Emulsifier had, in my mind, a great freshman year to be in BattleBots, right? Like they made a very stand-up showing. Yes, they didn't make the 32. Next year, they'll probably be in the 32. They are definitely a devastating enough bot, and they aren't people that walk away and don't learn from their mistakes. Like that is a team that knows how to look at what they've done, reevaluate, and come back stronger the next year.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll get to Shatter in just a little bit. They're not too far down the list, but let's start off with a robot we've already mentioned at number 32, which is Fusion. Didn't make the bracket last year, did the year before, now back in it again. Great start to the season. Had, as we said, that incredible fight with Emulsifier, incredible fight with Witch Doctor. An absolute coin flip. Maybe petered out a little bit towards the end of the regular season. You know, tough fight with Huge and tough fight. Who was their other fight?
RotatoR,
that was it. But as a 32 seed, you really don't want to fight it because it could be devastating.
This is a bot to sort of keep paying attention to because they've been doing so much inside to make it less flammable. To say, and the thing, it's a brilliant design. I mean, most people, you go out there and you say, "Oh, I'm fighting Tombstone," so you put on the Tombstone armor. Oh, I'm fighting Witch Doctor. Let me design a special set of forks to keep them at bay, and I can't get the vertical spinner doesn't come at me. Oh, I'm fighting a lifter. I have to do this. This is so difficult because he just spins around and he offers a different weapon type to you. So you have to be able to be in that really adaptable phase, which kind of doesn't allow you to put the heaviest armor on or the thing. Like you're always in that misbalance. And I think Reese has the ability to go much further and keep going. With it, next season, I think this is going to be even more devastating.
I completely agree. It like as much as the 1 and 3 record is there, but as we said, it was a very, very narrow loss to eventual 3rd seed Witch Doctor. Like there's no shame there.
No shame there in the fact that they were beating them for 2 minutes of that 3-minute fight. You know.
Yes.
Huge, of course, 4-0 as well. So again, no shame losing to them and RotatoR. It's kind of similar to Fusion in the sense that you can't really approach it in one particular way. It's kind of an unusual robot to fight as well. So
master tactician.
Yes, he is. Fusion, what do we think against Minotaur?
I think it stands a reasonable chance. It's a small, dense brick like Minotaur, and you know, as we've said, they've got the horizontal option, they've got the vertical option. Both hit reasonably hard. If it doesn't combust, I think it goes well for them.
It just needs to keep the magic smoke inside it this time, and then everything's fine.
Or let
don't light any of the fireworks.
The other robot.
Yeah. So watch it now catch fire.
We've notes from Black Dragon. That's what it needs to do.
Or Minotaur themselves. You know, they've done the same thing.
I've been looking at Fusion's fight.
That's the solution.
I was looking at Fusion's fight against Copperhead last year and thinking of a similar fight possibly that they can face against a Burbot like that. And they lasted almost 2 minutes against Copperhead. So hopefully they can, really, take it to Minotaur and really make it hard for the 1 seed. But I really don't know. It's a very tricky draw for both machines.
It's interesting. We should also note that Steve now doesn't know anything.
No, this is it now.
So it was just me and David at recording from this point onwards.
That's right. You guys were there, and
so Steve and Sam can suffer in silence.
At one point during the Monday session, I am either on a plane at an airport or sleeping on the floor at an airport.
That's all right, because that was a dark
because it got canceled because of weather. So it's a thing. I don't know.
I think I was back from my honeymoon at this point. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Could have come out. Unbelievable.
I know. Yeah. Shocking. Well, we mentioned Shatter. Let's talk about Shatter, the 31 seed.
I've seen some wonderful photos this week.
There's a lovely picture.
There's the photo. It's the photo of Mary the morning of the bracket reveal. I don't know if you've seen this, Pete, but basically she has the biggest glass of wine I've ever seen in my life.
And it's like, one of those ones that can
she's just found out that they're fighting Riptide again.
They're fighting Riptide again, then two, they've actually got to repair the robot and get it ready for the bracket, I think. And it's just because I don't think they expected to get in. They've said they didn't expect to get in after their season. I have to ask, Pete, obviously you were privy to conversations that were had by the selection committee. Why Shatter?
I wish I could remember fully 6 months ago exactly what happened at 1 a.m. in the morning.
That's going to be tricky.
Yeah.
But, and I wasn't even drunk.
Those two were.
One of the things, they can go the full distance. They have a good ability to repair and rebuild their bot. It is, from my perspective, it's nice to have a non-meta based bot. It's great to have another hammer in the bracket. Makes me ecstatic. Hammers and flippers and control bots I always want more of. So let's see. Their fights were to Riptide. God, I can't see. 100 fights. The fight card.
I'll save you. I'll save you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So their fights were to Huge, Beta, Horizon, and Ominous. The only one they won was Ominous.
Yeah,
so, they had a pretty good showing against Ominous in their final fight. Maybe recency bias helps here, and the fact that they've been in the season before and they've made deep runs before. I think they made a quarter their first season there.
They had a decent run in the bracket previously. I mean, they're very good at sniping things that you don't want sniping, basically, and they've got tools for those jobs, the things like the Mary Special and the what is it?
Paul
the one
Surprise.
that
Paul Surprise,
it's just they've got lots of tools they can use for different jobs for robots, and not every robot has a top armor plan because there's not many robots that hit overhead.
Right.
So, and even if they do, Shatter has proven to just remove it. We saw it against Ominous where they basically picked off that top armor protection, went, you're not having that anymore.
Yep. It was precision.
Look, it's stuck on the end of my hair.
It was literally buried in it. It was great.
I'm going to take this home now.
Yeah.
And this is mine.
Yes, they lost to Huge, but again, they were definitely the right robot to fight a Huge.
Yeah.
That is the kind of action of a weapon to go against Huge, is to be able to land stuff into the belts and attack that center section, hopefully stopping the weapon in the process. But 4-0 Huge proved that it might be a little more difficult this time. They've definitely come out with a better bot this year. So that was a good fight for Shatter to have. So that makes them come out looking a little shinier.
It's very hard to make them look shiny. I was going to say it's hard to make them look shinier, isn't it?
Plenty shiny.
Tough fight against Riptide. Obviously, they fought last season as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've seen this before.
Does it prepare them better for fighting them this time, I wonder? I
mean, I feel like Riptide's just another level anyway. Like, we'll get to them a bit later on, but it's a scary machine they've got to fight. And
very much so. Very much so.
Good luck to them, I think is all I'm going to say on this one.
Yeah. Let's hope they have a
surprise us.
Time.
Yeah, why not? We saw a 31 seed beat a 2 seed last year, so why not again, right?
There you go.
Anything can happen in the battle.
March Madness this year, we had another 16 beat a 1, so I mean, it can happen. You know what I mean? So,
and just the juxtaposition of what stuff can happen is what Jake entered with Hydra last year at 31 or 32.
But well,
he had to play in.
And this year he enters in at 4 or 6.
Yeah,
4.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So,
absolutely
crazy fluctuation. There's also another bot coming up not too far from now that we're surprised at their fluctuation on the opposite direction. So
Yeah.
And there's something else, Matt Vasquez had said something that I thought was brilliant, which was, in his mind, it actually doesn't really matter what his seed is, as long as he's made it into the 32. That really, in the end, is the most important thing. Did you make it that far? And did you prove that you can survive and make it to the end of 32? Yes. So,
absolutely. Well, moving on to number 30, Jackpot.
Hometown kid.
The
roughest of rough years, but yeah,
strong recovery. I think started off struggling, picked up that win against Ribbot and then Shredderator after that, and ends up round and in the bracket. And I think this has definitely been their toughest season to qualify for this stage. But I think that's more a case of they've been given a lot tougher opponents because they've done so well previously.
I mean, you look at their lineups previously. They fought the likes of Ghost Raptor, sort of
Deadlift,
down and out,
Sub-Zero,
LockJaw in the past, who was really struggling that year. They've had a decent level of robot to fight against, but then this year, obviously, they've had the next level up because they deserve to fight that level.
They're a top 16 machine last year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they also made lots of changes. They added the whole lifter style thing, which before they were just a vert. When they first sort of came in, they didn't really sort of operate in that way. And, shit happens, as it always does. It doesn't always work out in your favor. I think that they're a tough enough bot. They definitely can fix things. It's always impresses me how fast they sort of get it all back together and sort of weld it back up, and they're back out. They could easily climb the ladder if they could.
I think it shows how well prepared they are for fights. In that, I think we spoke about it previously on the podcast. We went and spoke to them before their Ribbot fight, and they had 2 Jackpots standing by just while Ribbot were playing Guess the Setup. Jackpot could also play Guess the Setup, and yeah.
That's what we're going to write that down in the rules now. It's called the Guess the setup rule. Yeah. You must have your Guess the Setup configuration in place by X hour. Yes.
Lovely. See, not only are we making bot design choices for people, we're now also influencing the rule set of BattleBots.
Look at that. Brilliant. Now I'm thinking of a deal or no deal scenario, and you have 22 Ribbots, each has a different setup, and you've got to work out which one is the actual Ribbot.
24 identical Ribbots.
Exactly.
That is
I'm going to take Ribbot number 17. Will you open the briefcase, please, and show me what inside?
It's a Hammer Ribbot. We didn't know it existed.
Hammer Ribbot.
Does this make Greg the banker? I don't know.
Right? Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Obviously it's Pete because he's got the phone there.
It all makes sense.
Right.
It all makes sense.
Exactly.
Jackpot has a tough challenge in Witch Doctor.
Yeah,
of course.
Who is phenomenal and has been
on
phenomenal.
A tear.
I mean, they always do.
Yeah.
The one saving grace for Jackpot, and it is probably their one saving grace, is they have an enormous amount of reach compared to Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor's got to get right in there.
Yes.
So
the Devil Diamonds, or even the Blackheart, whichever weapon they're going with, does have a lot more distance to get out there and hit their opponent, and they hit hard. Most people don't realize just how hard Jackpot actually makes contact. It's a pretty powerful weapon.
Yeah. For a budget team of a few years ago, they have come on an awful lot, and they're now fighting at the very highest level. Obviously they beat Tombstone last year. They're not to be sniffed at. So
no, not at all. Not at all.
Tough challenge for Witch Doctor, I think, as well in Jackpot. At 29. I mean, it's basically the same robot, isn't it? In Death Roll, it looks very similar.
It's that green thing with the vert out the front.
With the red vert,
but this one's got a knife.
That's not a knife.
You call that a knife?
This is a knife.
Good.
Death Roll, their first season back for 3 years now?
2019.
Yeah, COVID was horrific.
I mean, especially for the Australians, because they just weren't allowed to leave the country at all,
or get back in if they left.
Exactly. If they did leave, they'd have had to emigrate for a couple of years and then consider things from there. Death Roll has come back mostly unchanged and has still proven its okay, maybe not at the zenith of the sport anymore, but it's still certainly something you don't want to be fighting early doors, as we've seen already. They've won 2 fights, they've lost 2 as well.
Yeah, and the 2 that they've lost they've lost to 2 other verts with their weapon out front. Cobalt and Monsoon. They've had a bit of a pummeling from the Brits. We apologise, but
no,
no, we don't. No. But yeah, it is the way the game goes sometimes, and they still have that massive red thing that they will always try and shove into their opponent.
Yeah,
and not just that. The part that sort of gets lost in talking about with Death Roll is its little sort of squarish shape overall.
Mm-hmm.
So when it takes a hit, or if it hits too hard and it goes bouncing away, like sort of rolling a die, it always ends up coming, or like a loaded die, popping back up onto the wheels and then just zipping back out in. Like, its compactness allows it to be flung across the arena and bounce right back into the space without long pieces of it getting jammed or bent due to gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Death Roll there is a sweet spot that they've achieved, and that's why they don't play the ground game, is because that aspect of being able to roll the Death Roll die is amazing for them to sort of keep going without having to have a bunch of forks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, considering they are, basically unchanged, there was, a worry that them and other teams were kind of going to be left behind on the power curve. I mean, they certainly haven't. The weapon still dishes out just as much as it ever has done.
I think 2019, where they went 4-0 in the regular season, I think proves that they potentially were slightly ahead of the curve. Like they were the meta before its time. Like 2020 onwards, we've seen robots start to go the same way that Death Roll was in 2019, and so now the curve has caught up with them. I don't think it's fully overtaken them yet, but it's certainly, like, they're now at a level where they can look at what everybody else is doing that have seen what they were doing previously and gone, okay, this is what we're going to do next.
Yeah, correct.
It
still baffles me the fact that it's basically unmodified hoverboard wheels as well. Like, it's wonderful, and I love the fact that it's a very simple robot. It is a very simple robot, but it does what it does very well. Interesting fight they're going to have against Hydra, because they play no ground game. Hydra plays all of it. So
yes,
it could not be more opposite, these two. And
right, I mean, they need they need a side or back hit. Like, they have to have that, and Jake just doesn't give people those.
No,
He's a very good driver at keeping his nose pointed at the other robot.
Well, they call it Hydra hysteria, where the other robot just ends up driving up that front wedge every time and gets flipped.
I think next time I'll get under, right?
Yep,
yeah,
next
exactly.
time.
It never happens.
No,
not if he's presenting the front end. Yeah.
I think we're going to notice a bit more of a theme here, because there's another green and red robot coming up, which is Ribbot.
Another one.
Yes,
you're right.
They keep going.
And this one surprises me. The season they've had.
I mean, they had a tough schedule. They had a really tough schedule. Okay, the Claw Viper one,
and they had. Sorry, I was going to say, and they have some tough time in the pits.
Yeah.
Like, they had a lot of fires and a lot of rebuilding that went on that was really hindering them to be able to get the perfect Ribbot back out into the arena every time.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much, because obviously last season and the season before, there was not Ribbot the season before, but last season they had that extremely high voltage. It's a Toyota Prius air conditioning motor or something like that, right? I'm sure that's what it was, or something along those lines.
It was a very high voltage brushless DC motor. I can't remember what exactly it came out of. And they were running, above what is now considered the peak limit of what we want with voltage. Both them and Uppercut were doing the same principle of how to run their motors at, because certain motors, it's far more efficient to run at 120 volts DC. Like, they prefer that. You would go, oh my God, that's crazy. But sometimes it's way more efficient. They were getting more out of their motors that they wanted to. So.
Absolutely. And I wonder how much that affected them, having to go back to maybe a less efficient system for them. You know, they had that incredible spin up time. You know, their man uppercut had that amazing, you know, instant spin up, didn't they? Whereas maybe this season, I wonder if it affected them or not. I don't know.
It might have, because it does mean that when they step back down, they're putting more amps into the system, which has a much higher chance of being more fire into their system. You know, whereas when they're at that high voltage system, they're using really small packs that are all daisy chained together. And, you know, it's a much lower power density, but it was just much more efficient for them. Yeah,
absolutely. Tough schedule as well. Obviously, we
yes.
Witch Doctor, okay, understandable. That Claw Viper fight, I mean, we've seen Claw Viper, and we'll speak about it a bit later on because it has had quite the season this year.
I can't wait. That's actually somebody I wanted to really talk about.
I actually had that earmarked as this is a Pete robot, absolutely.
And then we spoke to Mike about that fight afterwards, and he was saying that it's one of the best he's ever seen. And
by
that,
Mike,
that
you mean Jeff, right?
I do mean, Jeff Jeffries.
Jeff Jeffries.
Yep.
Never going to live it down.
Never.
No.
Ribbot has Quantum.
Which,
if you're Quantum and you've gone 4-0, and then you see Ribbot staring at you, you're like, what? Like, what was the point? You really
it is a robot that has been bitten before. Kraken beat it as a crusher. Granted, it was the original Ribbot. It wasn't.
It was the Ribbot's first fight as well.
Yeah, but it's a biteable robot. There is a lot of space around the back and sides that you can grab a hold of if Ribbot makes that driving error.
Right.
You've got to think that Ribbot goes vert mode, surely, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing is, do they go horizontal or vert? And if you look at Quantum and its previous fights, let's just take Captain Shredderator, like a horizontal just fits into Quantum way too easy, right? It just parks in there and the jaws just bite down. So you probably have to have a vert. So fighting that, you know, is Grant got to be a little more timid on how he attacks in, because he kind of has to stop the vert from spinning before he puts a bite down in, which can be rough. There is only one Quantum.
There is, as we know.
Is it like there's 8 of them in the back in the pits? There's only one. So it is a tough fight.
Yeah, definitely. Tough for both teams.
And the other thing that we, you know, not everybody really says, but Ribbot's no slouch in the hitting department.
That's the thing. You know,
it's pretty damn hard, both vertical and horizontal.
Absolutely. You know, Ribbot, you know, again, it had a tough schedule, but we saw what it did to Skorpios in its last fight. I think it
retired that chassis.
Exactly.
Yes.
And, you know,
Ribbot is back from last year now. He's had a bit of a sabbatical, and now they're back and do not sleep on it, basically.
Yeah.
Definitely not. One to watch out for is Ribbot in the bracket. I think they could play Bracket Breaker, I think.
They really definitely could.
In 27, we just mentioned Skorpios.
There we go.
Strong start to the season.
Yes.
I've seen people still saying they threw the SawBlaze. Like, come on now. They tried something different, and it didn't work. These things happen.
They totally happen. And with what the builders don't have is a lot of opportunities to be able to go try these things out, right? Like Skorpios in a Skorpios version, you know, in the hammer saw version versus SawBlaze, would that have gone right? I don't know. Like this was them saying the weakness I see in SawBlaze is at the chain point. This might allow us to reach it. Let us try.
Yeah.
It's a fight card fight. So how much weight is on it? It's not in the tournament. So maybe it's a good chance to try this and experiment and learn from it.
They also let the builders kind of decide it.
Well,
anybody that went by their pit.
They did, but they definitely had sort of their own preference. I mean, there was I think Zach and Diana really did want to bring that blade out, you know, for Overkill and Christian, just to sort of be able to, like, we did it. We're going to go try it.
Absolutely.
And the team worked so hard creating a mount.
What was that?
They worked so hard creating a mount for it, you know?
Yeah, that's true. The mount. The other issue that doesn't really get seen is, you know, Skorpios is usually on the deck, ready to go every morning. No, there's never a delay for them. And they were in that state, and they went and put one of the Skorpios in the box, and it just in the test box, and just caught fire. Like they turned it on, and it just exploded in fire. They had to spend the whole day gutting that robot, cleaning it. Like it broke their rhythm. It took so much out of them as a team. It was so devastating that it was really made the rest of their season very difficult. Like it was a tough pit for them.
100%. Yeah, it is a tough one. And, you know, their season, as I said, started off really strongly. They had a really rough run of it at the end of it, you know, with SawBlaze, and as we mentioned, Ribbot already, you know, good win against Jackpot and a good win against Big Dill.
Yep.
Get into the bracket, and they've got, well, beautifully dubbed Murder Huge. This season, and it really has been Murder Huge, because it's been absolutely on a tear, and Skorpios is in that unique position where it is one of the 2 or 3 robots that can just absolutely actively go for the body of Huge, which is really interesting. You know, it is the right type of robot to fight a Huge. Absolutely.
Next to going back to the day of Ice Wave, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a couple of spots that you can attack Huge and hopefully get something. One of them is a robot with reach. One of them is a horizontal that isn't an undercutter, but is high enough up to be able to cut spokes out of wheels.
Absolutely.
But they've kind of, with the Tigris wheels, like they've made it much more difficult to do such a thing. But actually, we'll talk about Huge when we get to Huge.
Yeah. Tough one for Skorpios, I think, but you know,
but the right bot for this.
Exactly. You know,
yes.
Like a bracket breaker, you know.
Yes.
With Skorpios being able to make the reach.
100%. You know, it's definitely one that Huge should be taking lightly. I mean, you can't take anyone lightly in the bracket, but you know, this is kind of like one of their probably biggest Achilles heels.
Yeah. Considering the only bot that Huge fought that could reach it that didn't was Starchild. So this is another bot that might have a better chance here.
Right.
Yeah, and if they win it, it'll be Skorpios' first win in the bracket as well. So
yes.
They've got that to hopefully look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to 26. I mean,
what a meteoric fall.
I mean,
when you're thrown the book followed by the bookshelf and then the library,
it all falls on you.
Kind of expect to end up as the number 26 seed.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a case of they're in, and as you said previously, as Matt said previously, so long as you're in, you stand a chance.
Right.
And Tantrum is one of the best bracket breakers out there.
Yeah,
so
he's done it before.
I would know. I keep backing them to lose, and they somehow keep winning. I don't know how I do it.
Yeah, they had a rough. I mean, they had that great fight against Hydra, and then all the rest have been really tough on them. Like it just hasn't gone their way.
No, the fight against Whiplash, literally just this week. Yeah, that's right. It was this week, wasn't it? Like just something small like the chain breaking off. We saw it last season against Lucky where the chain broke, and just one of those very unfortunate things where a very minor oversight where the chain breaks and then suddenly the fight's over.
You can't self-right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just like their first fight of the season against Minotaur, where the chain breaks and they can't self-right, and I feel like that's been following them this season, where they've
that they're
going
to make a chain guard or something, and
that's
not going to happen again after that.
Correct.
So
I mean, that whole seems reasonable team does not. They don't just sort of have a thing happen, then go, oh, whatever, we'll just walk away from it.
Yeah, we'll do the same thing. Yeah.
They go back and re-engineer.
Yeah.
Make it better. I mean, think about how Tantrum's evolved over the past 4 years or so. It's been impressive.
Yeah. I mean, who'd have said in 2018 that Tantrum would be a champion in 3 years?
From burger flipper to nut winner.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why it is my favorite robot, for that meteoric rise,
It's an absolute joy. I do feel very sorry for them, because if you thought that the library was enough to be thrown at Tantrum, they've now been sent.
It's the entire street on top of it to finish the job.
Because they are fighting Endgame again. The previous two champions.
Yeah.
To be honest, if anyone can beat Endgame at this stage, Tantrum probably can, because they've come close before a couple of times. And
as I said on the podcast that we did with the Lucky guys, the endgame team frequently say that Tantrum causes them the most problems. Whenever they fight, it's Tantrum that, like, their season is slightly worried by Tantrum every time. So it's an interesting one to have in the round of 32, because there is a world in which endgame could go out in the 32 to Tantrum, because this is the third or fourth time of fighting, and
it's not been easy either time, has it? The last time they fought was in Champions last year. It was quite close. The first time Tantrum had them until was it a speed controller blew up?
Speed controller,
that operated both their weapon and self-writer.
Yeah. So who knows?
Endgame always approaches everything with, which fork am I going to go get? The salad fork? Am I getting the crab fork? Is it the dessert fork? Which fork are we using to fight our crab game? One of the things that Tantrum does really well is their magnets stick them to the floor. They don't usually come off the floor. That's sort of a key element to Tantrum. And so that's what becomes really difficult to fight, is that doesn't matter what forks we're using, this bot won't get up on them. Like, we can't get under them because they stick so well. So and plus they drive. That drive is amazing.
Dylan,
that bot is a zippy,
buttery smooth,
responsive, turns on a dime. It's a great bot.
Absolutely.
I will make a comparison here. I'm a huge NHL fan, so I just watched my hometown Tampa Bay Lightning finally fall out of the playoffs for the first time in 4 years after going on 3 really deep runs. I will say, similar to Tantrum, they've made a lot of deep runs. They've had a lot of long runs in the tournament the past couple of years. Is this a point where, like, we've had so many deep runs, is this finally where the stopping point is? Or do they still have one more run in them?
I don't think they've got anything to prove at this point. They've won the nut. They've done the deep run. They've won it all. And so the fact that they're here, I think there's a bit of pedigree on the line, perhaps, but not massively for them. And
I think it's unfortunate because, every big name in BattleBots, Tantrum has beaten them. Like, with the exception of maybe Endgame. Everyone else, Hydra twice, beaten SawBlaze, beaten
Tombstone,
beaten Cobalt, this, Minotaur, okay, maybe not, but everyone else, they've beaten them. So
it's never to be underestimated.
Gigabyte, Whiplash,
even last year where they won it all and they went undefeated doing so, I don't think that was ever the plan. They just wanted to go and
send it off. Send it off. Wasn't it? It was meant to be its last season last year.
It was meant to be retirement. Yeah.
And look at it, winning the giant nut and causing the team a headache. Well, that's one half of the team. Let's talk about the other, because Blip is 25.
Very weird how they're so close together.
Well, they are siblings after all. You can't.
This is true.
You can't
separate them too much.
I think the win over Tantrum with Blip is what sets it one stage further, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2-2, but at the same time, it beat Tantrum, and therefore
has to be higher. Ahead. Has to be higher. Blip.
It was funny. Remember how I said I read Facebook BattleBots page, which I shouldn't have. One of the things somebody had posted was, did one of these teams throw the fight when they fought each other? Which is like, fuck you, bullshit. Fought so hard against each other. Like, Aaron was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to go easy on this. Like, I'm going to drive the shit out of Blip and do everything I can to fight Tantrum.
It's
the real sin was that they lost the weapon so early. Tantrum,
he was determined to beat Dylan more than anything else. That was the thing.
I mean, they've been fighting sort of, whether it's robots this big to robots this big, since they were like 11. Like, they've known each other forever, and they've been competing against each other. So of course they're going to go out there with full gusto and really fight it out.
I think we spoke to them when it was that fight, didn't we? And we asked them,
we had the whole team.
Was there any temptation at all to kind of not manufacture the result, but like, maybe you should probably do it for this robot because it's struggling a little bit more than this one? And the answer was
that's not.
No,
it's
not how
I want to say works. I beat you on TV.
Gonna say no.
Bragging rights.
Absolutely not. It was a full bore proper fight between the two of them.
Yeah.
And this, I love this bot. Like you guys know, I mean, I just gushed over it last year because of just mechanically and technologically what's been done inside this bot just touches all my buttons to get me excited about what robots can be, right? I love this bot.
I mean, we do as well. It is an absolute
Everybody
joy.
does.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
I do like how they've switched the color of the lubricant inside so it looks a little less visceral.
No, bring back the red. I want to see
grease. Yes,
I want to see bleed on the arena. well, I don't, because that means it's in big trouble. But
to make the cord come out from the inside, that's like the furthest in you can be inside of Blip.
Very bad has gone wrong.
Yeah. But if it does have to happen, why not make it red? Why not, proper the guts are being ripped out of it,
Look, they'll have to up the age rating for BattleBots, like the late night segment if you're doing that. It's bad enough for the lobotomy and the huge fight,
Oh, that was bad. That was
like
bad,
the creature features version of BattleBots. We'll have that episode.
Absolutely. Blip has SawBlaze.
Blip does.
Blip has SawBlaze.
Aaron's done it before.
Yeah. Well, technically.
He has done it before. It's a different style of robot, which I think is one thing. And I think the other thing is JMO will have learned from that.
You would think so.
Yes.
That was Tantrum, right?
Yes.
That was that one fight with SawBlaze and Tantrum. And SawBlaze is all about scooping you inside those forks, kind of like a dustpan, and then being able to attack you. And Tantrum never allowed him that option. Like that was the defeated SawBlaze by taking away the tool that makes SawBlaze work so well. Now, like you said, Jameson doesn't just forget.
No. he don't talk to him about uppercut. He'll have a aneurysm.
Yeah,
I know, and he completely replays those fights, and so that he knows how he can do better to fight that.
Absolutely. Blip is an ideal opponent for it as well, because it is quite small, and if they can get it on that, kind of front end, problems for Blip, I think. But as we said, we've just seen SawBlaze lose to another flipper, so it could go the same way. It's really,
flippers are one of their main weaknesses. So.
Yeah, they've lost to Bronco in the past as well. So
just got to get SawBlaze upset off of those wheels, and once he's tossing around, you got all the chances in the world. But JMO's going to do the best he can to prevent that.
He really is.
Exactly.
He really is. Moving on, we have Monsoon.
I'm very surprised you're not wearing the Monsoon shirt, even though you had it on yesterday.
I had it on yesterday when we recorded it, guys, and it's in
you
the
don't
wash.
want you don't want comments
bring
about
my
that.
Union Jack out for this.
Yes.
There you go.
Monsoon.
Yeah, there you go. You can have
there
one
it is
for all of us. Thank you.
You see it in the crowd. It's Jevon.
Yeah.
Monsoon.
Go get some tea while I'm at it.
Or it's me flying it and being a traitor to the country.
Oh god,
I'm so disappointed. There's a shot that got cut out of the episode, the first Monsoon fight, and it's where me and Steve forward front facing camera in our face, just waving this flag in it, and didn't get on.
It's all right. We all got cut. Remember, after the Tantrum Fist got cut last week.
We can't be in every episode. We have to be good boys.
Yeah. You guys got. I mean, you guys are now stars because you were definitely covered enough times. We got you on.
It's very much in
very appreciative. Very appreciative.
Yeah.
Monsoon season, I think, it's been very good. I know
for missing out the past couple of years. Absolutely.
Having
it's similar to Death Roll, to be fair.
Yeah, who they fought.
Having spoken to Tom and Rory and Tim quite a lot, they're very local to me. We hang out quite a lot, and I said, they were really worried that they were just going to turn up and get absolutely trashed because they didn't know what the power curve was, because they yes, they've been upgrading the robot over the years, but you don't know until you get there,
right?
And they are right on that curve quite nicely, because they had that amazing fight with Whiplash, could have gone either way. They were beating Black Dragon until they sucked in the bolt and destroyed their own weapon motors, and they won the other two fights quite easily. So, Monsoon is definitely one to watch in this bracket. As much as they've got a tough fight next against Cobalt.
God, do they?
But if anyone can, Monsoon is certainly a difficult one to fight.
I mean, I've always loved sort of Monsoon's sort of difference in how to do a vertical, right? With the fact that the way the robot can sort of flip back and forth on its end and wheelie as it does sometimes. And it's like, it's a really cool way to have solved some of this problem, is how do you deliver this giant bar or this giant spinning disc to somebody else, but protect what we're doing and maneuver. Like, this thought's actually really agile. Like, you don't really pay attention to how quick and on it is. It doesn't sort of lumber about before it comes back in and makes the attack. They're on it pretty quick.
Yeah, and you could be behind Monsoon and they'll axle over, and then they'll be right back at you again.
And then you're suddenly in trouble again.
And Beta in 2020 put those rear wheels on so that they can drive down from opponents. It's a strategy Monsoon have been using since they came onto the scene, really, because their whole body can pivot away from the opponent so that their wheels are never off the ground if they go face to face until such time as they get hit into the air.
And now with the individual pivots, it's even more so like that.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It is a really brilliant.
While we're here, I have to take a moment. This season probably was saved by Rory.
Yes.
Like, he deserves so much credit for all of the work he did for so many teams, for all of that Vesk's problems that was going on for so many people, that he just graciously went around to people that were his opponents, that they were going to fight, and helped them get through it. And this, like, that is what makes me love this community. That kind of stuff is the best part. We're all willing to go and hand each other batteries and motors and get each other until we're in the arena. We beat the snot out of each other, and then we go back and have a drink. Like, that's the way to be a community.
100%.
Yeah.
And we've coined a phrase on this podcast, which is Rory to the Vescue.
The Vescuer.
It really fits.
Because he is such a hero.
He is.
Yeah. He is. It was... I love it.
Get him on the payroll.
We should. There needs to... Well, we really need to solve... Or Vesk needs to come around with how to get out of the Bluetooth communication range to work better for... whether they put security onto it or, whether there's a pairing issue, so that I'm not in the pits turning on my robot, affecting a robot that is now in the arena, right? Like, we can't have that.
They just need to hire Rory.
Hopefully somebody can... That would be good.
I'm having flashbacks to first with the Samantha module when I was in high school, and having so many headaches with that when I was in school, and oh man, anybody who hears that will know exactly what I'm talking about.
That's right. But... Try infrared when you're trying to record and the sunlight comes out.
Don't do it.
As for Monsoon has a tough challenge against Cobalt. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more later on when we get to Cobalt. But again, two big Britverts. Who would have thought? You travel all the way to Las Vegas, and then you fight another Britvert.
You fight your neighbours.
Exactly.
Fight your fellow Midlanders,
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fight on Mackey's on the ramp.
What?
Trust me, it's a Birmingham thing, all right?
Okay. We'll take your word for it.
Just smile and wave, boys.
Yep.
Smile and wave.
Number 23 is RotatoR.
It always seems to be in this middle range section, and he always seems to do well coming off.
Regardless, yeah. RotatoR's start of the season, obviously, we saw, he had all kinds of issues, had to rip out all the receivers and...
Spin it.
Yeah,
he still was having, right through. I don't remember if he ever was able to get two motors to run the weapon. I think he was still on a single motor to the weapon, rather, because he was there had been problems that he was plagued with that was going on. So
it's such a shame, because we champion Victor all the time. He's
which you should.
Exactly. Every season that RotatoR gets into the bracket, it loses to the eventual
the
winner.
Kingmaker.
Yeah. Which is an incredible stat, in my opinion. And this year it has Copperhead, which
good. Well, spoilers, everyone.
Congratulations, Copperhead is our new champion. Well done.
Congratulations, Clyde Magnuson, on bringing them to glory.
RotatoR is the gatekeeper, man.
Yeah, if you're beating RotatoR, then you are a serious bit of kit, and I think it's the same thing with every year. Victor is such a pain to fight because he has the same thing that Fusion has. You can't really plan and use a wedge because he'll just use the forks and scoop you up. It's
right.
he's a brilliant design, and I love RotatoR to pieces. I hope it does really well, but who knows?
It definitely, I enjoy it greatly. I mean, one of my all-time favorite fights is RotatoR Valkyrie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
The spark wheelies that went on in that fight were so good. Like, it was just there was so many white showers happening all over that arena. Oh, I love that fight.
Absolutely. Is there any way? I mean, obviously, we'll talk about a little bit later on when we get to Copperhead. But do we think it's got a chance against them? Because
Definitely
easily.
Yeah.
So they are low enough with an undercutter to, one of the things about some of the small drums is they're always getting the first bite because they're always lower than everybody else's weapon, on the catch. But RotatoR is very low, and that undercutter could possibly get underneath and catch the hit first rather than being caught and lifted. That usually is what happens. So
correct.
Yeah. Victor just can't show his sides. He has to face RotatoR at Copperhead constantly. If he shows a side, it's gonna be tricky to kind of keep the bot in fully working order because Copperhead can hit so hard. And it's gonna be a tough task, but I would say he's up to it. So
I think so.
I'm constantly amazed at the size of Copperhead and then realize that it's 250 pounds.
It's so tiny.
It's only it's
where's
really not that big of a
of
bot.
it? Where's the rest of it? There should be more.
Crammed in there.
Absolutely. Number 22, excuse me, is Mad Catter. Again, another solid season, not a spectacular as such, but they had that fight with Whiplash was certainly.
Yeah,
that was a great moment.
As was the fight with Big Deal as well. That was also a good fight. And do you know what, the LockJaw fight was good as well, wasn't it?
They've had 3 banger fights. In fact, they've had 4 banger fights.
4. Yeah,
let's
one
be
they'd
real.
like to forget. I mean, the Riptide fight was very one-way traffic.
I mean, it was. There was a moment where Riptide gets thrown backwards by that vert, but ultimately it didn't go their way. But they've had a barnstormer of a season once again, I think, and this robot. This is the one that surprises me most because it is a garage build. It's built on a budget and it's still wrecking shop. Basically, it's taking out some big name teams.
And Calvin is no slouch when it comes to driving, as we all know. Anybody that's ever seen anything in NHRL knows that Calvin is no slouch. Right.
Is this something that appeals to you, that seeing a robot like this, where the sport is now so high tech? You see, look at Quantum. That whole headpiece is one piece of billet. It's a beautiful piece of engineering. And then you have something like Mad Catter, which probably one of the motors in Quantum probably cost the same amount as the entirety of Mad Catter. Does this kind of I don't know, tickle you a little bit, Mad Catter being so competitive even now?
I mean, they just built it solid enough that, I mean, they're still using some of the similar thing. I mean, I don't know if one motor in Quantum equals a whole. Catter's a lot more expensive.
Little hyperbole there, Sam.
Of course.
But I mean, they just do a really nice job. They also, as a team, have an incredibly good pit ethic of how they get back and immediately are on repair.
Yeah, it is just a fabulous team. They work so hard. They have a lot of character. Martin has that brilliant. It takes a lot of that kind of burden off the team as well by going off and just pointing at cameras and shouting. Being Martin.
Yes, exactly.
It is a joy. It really is a joy. They've got a tough fight against Claw Viper. They fought before, and they did beat Claw Viper. This is a very different robot this year, though.
The family tree.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Jevon's loving life. The fact that siblings or cousins once removed are now fighting each other again.
Help.
I expect something similar from when they fought Ribbot. Man, I really think Mad Catter's going to have a tough time against Claw Viper with how impressive that fight was. Hopefully, Calvin and the team have watched that fight religiously to try to figure out if there's any weaknesses that Claw Viper showed in that fight, or that they just got to get lucky and get a good hit. And once they get a hit on that wedge, maybe there's a place that they can keep attacking. And it's also that fight against Hypershock that Claw Viper had. Just get them upset and just go to town on them. It's the idea of getting them to that point though, where Kevin drives this robot so cleanly, and it is just across the box in half a second, and you don't have a lot of time to react.
Yeah,
I don't envy.
I blinked.
Strategy.
Yeah.
I blinked, and they're on the other side.
Where is my robot? Where is his robot?
We had
I'm hitting the same bit of wall twice now, and
we had a conversation with Matt Olson yesterday, where he drives his robot in such a way where he's using his peripherals to drive his robot and actually completely staring at the other robot, basically in such a way that like he's not staring at Lucky, more so staring at the opponent to make sure that Lucky goes to where the opponent is. But if you're fighting something like Claw Viper, you really don't have a lot of time to process that. So
when we get to Claw Viper, we should talk about some of that stuff. Kevin's made mention of that to me about how he has to drive it.
100%. We'll save it for Claw Viper. 21 is Black Dragon. A bit of a recovery job they're going to need to do after the Riptide beating.
So close to beating Blip's record.
Almost.
But they're the Brazilians. They're one of... Watching them in the pits is always a treat, because everybody, even though they have a giant team, everybody on that team has a specific job. One person handles front armor and wedges, one person handles the weapon, one person handles motors and speed controllers, one person is all about dealing with wheels. And they get back and they just all dive in and individually go off and do their thing and bring it back, reassemble the bot, and they're ready to go. So that kind of approach is going to get them back into this bracket without a problem.
I feel like
even though they've got devastated by Riptide.
100%. I mean, so is everyone else, to be honest with you. I think Black Dragon is probably one of the most underrated machines in the field. It really, really is, because, okay, yes, they don't normally deliver the massive hits that you see from a Riptide or a Witch Doctor, but they're just so hard to beat. That record of not being knocked out until a couple of weeks ago,
until Riptide, that's an impressive record.
Exactly. They are never out of a fight. We've seen them catch fire and chase Ribbot around the arena for 3 minutes and win.
If they're on fire more, they're more likely to win.
Exactly. So they set off a bomb inside Black Dragon, and they're probably going to win the whole competition.
As long as it's not like the lucky bomb from the latest episode.
Right.
That was not a good idea. Black Dragon are going to try and scran some pizza. Tough
I
match.
can't wait to talk about Ripperoni when we get there.
I've got a question specifically saved for you, Pete, for that.
Good.
That robot.
Good.
I'm sure Jevon, Steve, and David will know.
I know what it's going to be.
I know exactly what it is.
We'll save it. We'll save it for Ripperoni. But
hold on. Yeah,
we're going to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Come on now.
But
you should never count out Black Dragon, because I mean they've been up there top 4. They've done it. They could do it again.
They've won events with their middleweight as well. They're just a serial contender, and good luck to anyone fighting them. I think it's a tough robot to beat, as we've seen.
Yeah,
for sure.
Number 20.
I was just going to say, you have to take out the duck to beat Black Dragon. I think that's the only way.
And the duck has its own sword. Have you seen their team photo?
Yeah.
I think the duck needs to go into the washing machine, though. The duck's looking a little on the dirty side.
The duck is also working on the robot, to make sure it's
exactly.
We're like
covered in grease.
We were. What was that? That box side. I don't know if they put it in the show, but box side we had Nick Maybe, where they just showed his hands, and it's just your hands get like a patina when you're at when you're at an event, of always working on the bot.
The hamburger hands.
Funny.
Yes.
There you go.
Know it all too well. Multiple cuts. You just can barely feel anything anymore. They're a little swollen, and it's just every groove is black because of all the grease and the burnt bits have all embedded them into your hands.
Yeah.
You know it all too well.
Just don't put any alcohol hand gel on your hands. You'll find out where every single cut is there. Number 20 is Whiplash.
Yeah.
Good recovery.
He made the bracket. He made the bracket, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He made the bracket, but again, a very tough run this year.
They had, if not the hardest, one of the hardest strength schedules, I think, out of everyone.
For somebody who isn't a current champion or a current sort of top 5 seeding, they had a rough draw. And they have done well with it, I would say. I mean, they've obviously struggled with the upgrade to brushless and everything. They were on the hit list of Vescua.
Yeah.
But they've managed to get it dialed in now, and their fight against Tantrum was over very quickly. They did enough to win it, and that's all it needed.
Correct. I mean, obviously, Matt is your colleague now, Pete. I mean,
yes. This bot suffered pretty heavily in all those earlier fights, and that stuff, tough schedule. We're usually there in a much better pace in the pits. They tend to like take it a little easier. They open up the robot, they clean it out, fix a few things. This was like, oh my God, we have to fix everything.
Yeah, and they were down a team member for majority of the first week.
I mean, they're down multiple because Rob's not there this year either.
Right.
Yes, they didn't have Rob there, and so that was a definite tough thing. And also there was a special sprocket shaft setup that didn't come until almost a week into the competition.
Matt told us
it was shearing and there was these problems. So
yeah, they had to use the prototype, but
which wasn't battle. Yeah. No, he said, didn't he? Yeah.
There's a gear or a little sprocket with a shaft in it, and the prototype is the shaft is, I don't know if it was keyed or set screwed or whatever to the sprocket, whereas the final piece was one machined piece. So it was a much stronger element, and he was having failures with the shaft pinned to the sprocket was a big problem.
Absolutely. I mean, I say great recovery, good wins against Monsoon, a great fight against Monsoon, and a good fight against Hypershock until, Will decided, okay, I'm gonna kick him now.
Yeah, you don't need these batteries,
Savage.
No, not at all. You don't need
this.
No.
Absolutely savaged. They are fighting Beta in the round of 32. I boldly predicted in the previous podcast that I know exactly what's going to happen. Beta will just use the boat armor, and
we could talk about that more maybe when we get to Beta.
We will.
Yeah,
we will. But if they do, I just feel like it's going to be one-way traffic and Whiplash will go through. But we'll see. We'll get to that when we get to Beta.
Yeah, we always rooting for Matt. Vested interest sometimes. I mean, we're not supposed to pick favorites, but
I know I'm not supposed to pick favorites, but he's always been my favorite driver. And I mean, like watching him and Will fight was just people stabbing me with swords because it was my two sons were fighting against each other.
I'm glad it wasn't just me.
You've got to choose your favourite child,
I was up in the audience basically like this for the entire fight.
Yeah.
I was like, please,
that was
both
my
win
pain
somehow. Both win. Hunger Games it.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
we've all had our issues on that.
Ultimately, I say Matt's given us a big 7, 8, 10 hours of his time over the years. So he's
the true fourth host, not me.
It's true.
He's got a badge.
Exactly.
He has got a badge now to prove it. Number 19, Bloodsport. I mean, again,
what a weird season. They've had issues, but then they've had sparks of brilliance, and then it's trying to get it all to come together at the same time without explosions.
They're 2-2. They're 2-2.
Yeah,
they had the fight they probably should have won maybe against Copperhead. Okay, was over in one hit. Write it off. These things happen as we saw. The whole head just gave up and caught fire.
Yeah,
they probably geometry wise should lose to Gigabyte, but won that one.
Yeah.
They then have a very tricky opponent to deal with in RotatoR and
Gold Carbide.
We've Gold Carbide, and we've discussed. RotatoR's issues already, and then Beta gave them an absolute masterclass, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, it is a bit of a weird season for Bloodsport. I mean, again, not something to take lightly. They are, were they former second seeds back in the day?
Back in 2020.
Yes.
I mean, wow.
They beat Endgame.
They did beat Endgame. Wowee. Wow,
they're definitely, in my mind, one of the best horizontals that's out there right now.
100%.
They've really done an amazing job with the platform that they drive with. Like, that's super controllable and they can put it wherever they want to.
The telemetry. Being able to know what's going on inside the bot and being able to, all right, it's overheating. Or slow down on the
roll back on the weapon right now. Like, you're going to have to do all driving right now until we recover. And then, that's, and then multiple weapons for different styles of knowing who you're fighting to make the weapon be your armor. Like the fact they have that big giant disc that comes out that when they fight hammers, because the hammer can't get through it. Right.
Yeah.
It's a truly, honestly, I love Bloodsport. The way that it just, everything about it is just great. The way that it looks, it looks menacing. You look at it, you think, oh God, I don't want to fight, I have to deal with it. It is honestly just it's going to hit hard. Whoever they face, it's going to hit hard. They are fighting an old sparring partner of yours, Peter, in Donald.
It's a rematch as well.
It is a rematch.
Yes, it is a rematch.
They fought before from
Bounties. They owe them a bar.
They do. And that time, the Bloodsport bar was it S7 back then? And now they've changed to AR, which is, a little less brittle, not as sharp, but less brittle.
Not as sharp, but absorbs impact a little better on your side, on Bloodsport side, rather than break.
Also very difficult to bend back flat. Even if it's
all right. The seam reasonable press is around there somewhere.
It is. I don't even know how that one's going to go. It's going to depend on how well Donald is driving. We know he's excellent. He's won so many championships at this point. But the thing is,
I will say, LockJaw's been better at keeping the fire in this
yes,
season.
Similar to Fusion. They've both sort of solved some of their fire issues that have been plaguing them for the previous seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Tough match. I'm excited to see that one. It's kind of a free hit for either of them because I think LockJaw didn't even make the 32 last year, so the fact that they're back in there and with an opponent they've beat before it's interesting. I don't know.
Right.
Donald's got to save his wheels, man, because this could go quickly if he doesn't drive.
We saw what happened against Tombstone a few years ago. So
that's exactly where my mind went.
Yeah,
but even with only 2 wheels on opposite sides, don't count Donald out. I've witnessed him drive with just that.
It wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't shock me at all. Number 18. Well, we've mentioned Hypershock already. Pete, I remember you saying last year you got to drive a Hypershock around.
Yes.
I'm not jealous.
You've driven a Hypershock. You've driven one of these before, right?
I drive that one as frequently as I can with a pistol grip, modded Hexod controller that Ben, who's been on the Gemini team previously, made for.
There would be a brand new Porsche that somebody just says, here's the keys, and it's on a track, and you get to go drive it. Like, it was so fast, so responsive. All I wanted was something bigger than the test box. All I wanted was a giant space to really let it go, because wow, could it do stuff. You could just puppeteer the car, like the robot, put it wherever you wanted to. It's great.
I think
bot.
Will should let you drive one day in a match.
No.
Alex
should drive all the time.
Well, we've said this. We've said this. She's undefeated at this point, right?
Yeah, so, Alex is the Remars winner at the end of the day.
Having been there for Remars and watching those fights, it was just exquisite. It was amazing to know that she had practiced the bot, but never drove in combat before.
No.
And to fight Tombstone, and I can't remember all the Hydra, I think, was another one she fought in that.
It was Hydra in the final, wasn't it? It was Blip. Blip was the other one.
It was amazing. It was amazing to watch.
It comes to something when they've fought Hydra twice. Will drove the first time, drove up the wedge several times, and ended up out of the arena. And when Alex drove it, she beat it. So
right.
Hypershock, as we saw last season, it had that amazing run in Champions.
It was my happiest day.
In the Golden Bolt, that whole section, I know they just had. It was so much better than his preseason, right? Like than the regular season. The Golden Bolt section was. Yeah, it was amazing.
It was phenomenal. If that Hypershock turns up in the bracket. Just watch out. Write it off. It's Hypershock will win it because it's that good. It is that good. It's faster than everyone else, and it can hit just as hard.
And it's finally not been changed.
But it's an odd number season, Sam. It's an odd number season.
It's a Jevon season.
It is a Jevon season.
It's a Jevon season.
I mean, one of the things that they got to finally is Will was not tearing the robot down in the morning, and then me walking up going, why is this just a frame? There's no wheels on it, or nothing. You're in the arena in 2 hours. What is going on? Which is what used to happen. No, now they have a robot that's ready to go. Like every time they are there's more discipline that has come into Will's life, and Will's approach to the pits, and
married life
do
has changed
so
him.
much better.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it.
Married life has changed him.
Yeah. Alex literally
He was
is
changing
the
prior
secret
to that,
weapon.
but Kyle too. They like Kyle's a huge part of making sure that they're up and going.
He's brilliant. Yeah, Kyle's wonderful, isn't he? He's a top bloke.
Yeah.
They are fighting Lucky. I have backed Lucky for that fight, and I'll get to why in a little bit. But tough match for both of them. I think it's not going to be easy for Hypershock. Certainly.
It's kind of interesting. We have a similar parallel to like where you have Alex isn't driving this fight as far as we know. But Matt told us yesterday that he just kind of piloted Lucky in the test box one day, and then Mark is looking over his shoulder and seeing how he can just put Lucky wherever he was. He's drifting it in the test box. And then they realize, I think he just kind of joked to Mark and said, hey, maybe I should drive it next year. And I think that put a seed in there. And now here we are, and Lucky's had this rise.
Right.
Just, I don't know.
We'll get to look at it a little bit, I think.
I mean, both are amazingly quick and well driven, but I think that the hits that Hypershock can deliver could be. My money would be on Hypershock in this fight. That's where I would go.
No bias.
What was that? No bias.
No bias.
Yes, he's one. Sure, I won't be biased against my son. Yeah.
Hypershock's come a long way from the beginning of the season where they had SawBlaze stuck in its bottom.
I mean, there's still a hole in that chassis, I think. But
Some say they're still separating them today.
Yeah.
Hyperblaze
that long.
The ship will never
anyway,
end.
it's fine because I've driven Dead Metal, so.
Well, you're not jealous, are you, Jevon?
Not at all.
No.
Let's move on to number 17, which is Malice, who has probably had its best season to date, right?
I
think so.
I would think
it's had a up and down one. I would say
it started slowly, but it's starting.
It certainly had more wins this season. Than the seasons past.
No matter how it gets them, it's had more wins.
Yeah. They have had at least one full rebuild after Emulsifier, because that top panel, I still can't get over how mangled that thing was.
It's so cool.
I mean, we saw it in the pits.
We did, yeah. They pulled it out, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Rush brought it over, and it's like it looks like an erector set. It looked terrible.
Somebody dropped their Meccano on the floor, and no.
Well, they're the same now, because that buyout happened years ago at this point. Meccano and Erector. But anyway, continue.
Same thing. Action Man, G.I. Joe.
There you go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they did the whole fight card 4 fights with Drumstick. Am I not am I mistaken?
No, they did.
Mm-hmm.
That is right. Yeah, we haven't seen Big Red yet.
Nope.
And I think that might have been another thing that leads to sort of them winning, is there was a consistency. So they weren't really changing up, and David got better and better in dealing with just how this one bot drives and reacts by maintaining that single weapon.
100%.
It's funny you say David, and I have to think which David.
That's David's first season.
It's the husband, not the other one.
And definitely not me. I am not on the team.
No.
Yet.
Contrary to rumors, David's not on the team. Honestly, at the start of the season, they fight LockJaw. I thought they beat LockJaw. We saw how they did against Jackpot at Remars. There's a few videos circulating. They beat them, and I think the advent of having the fork, it just looks better with the forks. I don't know.
It looks right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everything, it just seems a lot more balanced.
It does the same thing that Fusion and RotatoR do, in that it's a horizontal. Great, let me stick on my wedge. Oh no, I've got forks.
The problem is with Malice, though, compared to the other two, is everything's all at the front. So they don't even have to turn around. They've just got the forks ready to go underneath you, and it's trouble. And Malice
we saw against Gruff in their fight that
it hits hard.
Gruff is a robot designed to fight the horizontals, and it struggled. It had an awful time against Malice, and that just doesn't happen against Gruff. I mean, they took Tombstone 3 minutes and could have come out with a decision, but it's a big shocker that Malice, I think it's flown under the radar quite a lot, Obviously, it's had a good season, then a sophomore slump, and then it's come back up with the new fork setup and the new weapons and everything. They're just on a bit of a tear at the minute, and I'm glad to see it because it's a robot that I think deserves a lot of praise.
And they're the only robot that's actually used an appeal, and they still have their appeal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that was something I wanted to talk about, was the most successful use of an appeal, and at exactly the right way to do it, because their weapon was working, but the back end of Malice was directly facing the judges, and they could not see over Malice to see that the weapon was spinning until they watched footage. And that was a perfect use of that appeal.
Absolutely.
So going back to I want to talk about the forks. This does something very similar to what SawBlaze does with the dustpan kind of configuration, is they have so much reach with that horizontal, and those forks being so wide allows to sort of bring bots in to that to be hit, as opposed to sort of having to try to get under, bring them right up to a much smaller vertical weapon. They kind of can just point that whole front end and catch an edge, and that'll bring the other bot in. So Malice is no slouch.
Definitely not.
Keep an eye on them.
Absolutely, they're definitely a dark horse. Keep an eye out for them as the tournament progresses. Moving on then to number 16, halfway through, and Malice's opponent is Switchback.
Yes.
Yep.
What a what a
great turnaround, right?
Yeah.
from this robot that's you like, how is it going to stay up and not topple? And now you have this one. It's like, oh.
Interesting thing here. Sam doesn't like this one as much as the old one.
Yep.
What?
I have my reasons. I quite
Spill
like
them.
I quite like the jankiness of the last one. This is very cool. This is brilliant.
Yes.
But I like this, and that's how I would describe the two Switchbacks. I like this version of Switchback. It's been very good. I just liked how jank the last one was. It was kind of it didn't look right, and that's what
it was a great first bot.
Yeah,
like that
it really
was a great first year bot, and that's why now their bot looks like this. I mean, think about
it was undercooked.
When it first showed up.
Yeah, it was
undercooked.
undercooked.
It was undercooked.
Hypershock had all of the weapons.
Yes.
Just put them all on. Kitchen sink,
well,
that was in there.
Yeah. Well, that was the deal when we talked with Will, where it's like, all ABC, that was the whole thing, where it's like, make it as weird as possible, make it as so many different weapons. You want it to look as cool as on TV as possible, even if it's not as effective as it could be. And obviously, the Hypershock arms disappeared.
Carbon fiber armor for
carbon fiber armor.
Self-righting.
Yeah.
Went away.
Self-righting.
So just wheeling now to flip yourself back over.
Or just forgetting like midway through a fight as well.
Well, there's that.
Pete, we saw the bot whisperings video of Switchback already.
Yes.
What do you think of this robot? I mean, we saw a little bit of an insight, but what do you think?
I mean, I actually really enjoy this robot. They still have a bit to go in my mind. There are things that they need to solve, but I still love the fact that they're pushing something different by having the lifting weapon this way. And I mean, you could kind of say it's in the SawBlaze Skorpios meta somewhat, but not really. Like I
think it's more Whiplash, honestly, with its spinner. Maybe.
Yeah, kind of could be in a weird. But I love it. It's so unique, and Greg's a great guy, and they're a great team. They're really pro. They're there to do a job, and so I'm ecstatic. I remember when this first came sort of across my desk, right? When I saw the first Whiplash Switchback, and Greg had sent me stuff and said, "Hey, here's what we're thinking about doing," and I was a champion for them immediately. Like, guys, we have to have this bot in there.
This thing looks so silly.
This is just great. So.
And like, credit to Greg as well. We've discussed like what we thought the bracket might be with him in the pub.
The final night I was there, he has his laptop, or somebody brought the laptop over, and we're like, "Oh, who's it going to be?" We dug into data.
Yeah, he was near on perfect with predicting the bracket, like before it had been announced. It was impressive.
Yeah.
Instead of going through, obviously their opponent, we've already discussed Malice. In a word, Steve, you're the only other person that wasn't there. Switchback or Malice, go.
For my 2 cents, I picked Malice for my bracket. when I filled it out. Just think Malice has just a little more going on that can be that they can exploit Switchback with.
I can tell you what we went for as well, because we did predictions while we were there.
Okay, go for
we
it.
predicted everything.
I also went Malice, by the way.
We were split. Because I also went Malice. David went Switchback.
Nice.
The reasons I went for Switchback was simply because of what they can do. They can move the arm up just to have it at the right height, go in, take the belts out
or
of
over
Malice
the top
straight
as well.
away, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They can just aim wherever they want to, and we know they're likely to put the horizontal armor on the front, right? So it's just let's get the armor in the right spot and go from there. So that's why I went for Switchback for this.
Yeah,
we'll see whether that is right or wrong.
This fight is a perfect 16-17 because it is such a coin toss.
Yeah,
it really is. There's no obvious winner in this fight. So
no,
we'll see how that pans out a little bit later on. Okay,
let me see if I can find. I was going to go see if I can dig up my bracket.
Did you do predictions?
Of course, we all
excellent.
We all do brackets.
Excellent.
Let's see what I picked.
Wait until then.
God, if I can find it, it's buried in this somewhere. I should have.
This is getting. This is all staying in. They're staying in.
Gotta go
has to stay
find where we even. Rammstein. Where the hell? What month were we in? What month we shot?
Yeah, last few days of October, start of November, kind of time.
Definitely, yeah. It was before Halloween, if that helps.
Yeah. Find your Halloween pictures if you have any.
Right, there you go. Which, if you guys know me, it's probably some giant cosplay thing. So yes. Let's see. That's the show. What the hell? All right, we'll have to.
We'll do it at the end.
Try to dig that up.
I imagine we'll say who we all want to win at the end of the podcast,
end,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or who we predicted to win.
Yeah. I have. You see if it differs from the preseason predictions because I'm sure there's possibilities there.
Mine does. Yeah.
Mine does.
All right. Okay, we'll do
next.
Moving on to number 15.
Next.
We have Lucky. I'm going to explain my logic.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So this is my logic and reason that Jevon, I'm really sorry, I've backed Lucky to beat Hypershock because last season we saw Hypershock struggle and to deal with P1.
Yes.
It got turned over and it struggled a lot, and P1 did a very good job at keeping Hypershock upside down. I feel like Lucky is going to be better at doing that than P1, therefore I think Lucky will beat Hypershock.
Okay, and this is why you're wrong. No, I think for me the main thing is that though Matt is a very good driver for Lucky, I think Will is probably a slightly better driver with Hypershock. He's more used to the controls. He's more used to fighting aggressively. He's also more used to drifting it around. He's also got Alex in his ear to tell him how to self-buy if need be.
But he doesn't have a headset though.
Yeah, that is true. They don't have a headset.
And as we now know, they do work.
They do.
Yeah, not just a prop.
But also Lucky is, because of what goes on inside it, it's very long. And I know Hypershock is as well. But because I think Hypershock is slightly more maneuverable than Lucky, I think Hypershock can get around it and do nasty things.
I'm expecting a good fight either way.
Yeah,
Lucky's improved so much over the last couple of seasons. It's really. It's not obviously, you can't really compare, Lucky to Ziggy because it's comparing apples with oranges. It's not the same thing, but it has that. It's all fruit, and ultimately, Lucky is starting to get that level of. It's intimidating. You don't want to fight it now because for a while they were just getting beaten every fight, and now they're not.
Yeah.
They're right there again.
I'm curious to see what kind of armor package Lucky decides to go for in this fight because we've seen quite a few different.
Yeah, they teased that they have something.
Yeah, they said something new, didn't they?
They have some good AR wraparounds that they've definitely invented and made. I mean, my prediction for this would be I would, of course, go with one of my sons, Hypershock, because I just think that he's got the harder hit, and that's going to be the key. Is who gets to. I believe that Hypershock can survive a few gravity hits, whereas Lucky will have a harder time surviving a Hypershock hit.
Fair.
I also think with what you said earlier about last year's fight against P1. P1 is the ultimate doorstop, and they need only like put the flipper up a little bit to create a perfect stump ramp that Hypershock will end up wheeling over and turning themselves over eventually. Whereas Lucky, you have to aim it right to be able to punt them over. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I think there's a high chance that it's going to happen, but yeah, I think it's less likely to happen with Lucky than it was with P1, who can just set up and drive.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Well, we'll see how that one pans out a little bit later on as well. Moving on is number 14. We've mentioned already, LockJaw.
I'm so glad it's here, and I'm so glad it's 14. I'm thoroughly enjoying LockJaw being back at its pinnacle. Like, it was heartbreaking to see it go 0-3.
0-4. 0-4,
including their bounty.
Yeah. No, it was a rough couple of years for LockJaw. Obviously, main season I'm talking. They had the amazing run through bounties.
Right, in the Desperado back in those days.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
and that run to the quarters or the semis in 2018, excuse me. That's
it's a long time ago.
It's got something special here. Yeah, but still, I mean, this bot's still something special. We still haven't seen this pretty fork.
We haven't seen this setup.
No,
are they gear crow feet?
They sure look similar.
Very similar in geometry and shape.
I like it.
I don't know if there actually were gear crow feet, but they are in sort of. It's definitely a Donald aesthetic.
100%.
Like that is true Donald in shape.
Very triangles.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Pete, I don't know if you've been to Destructor Thought yet or not, but I mean, have you had a look around new Tazbot? Yes,
I've seen it.
Excellent.
I went there for press night, which was like one of the big opening nights. I tried to see if I could drive, but they went ahead and the morning of, I'm getting ready to fly, and I get a text from Greg saying, "Hey, you're going to co-host with Bill Dwyer." I'm like, "Excuse me?" So, what? He goes, "Yeah, make sure you have the jacket and come on in, and we're going to put you on the stage with Bill, and you can commentate." I was like, okay.
This is good, but I wanted to drive.
That's what I was hoping for, was at least drive a bot, but it was fun. I mean, there was a lot of sort of pre-jitters that were going on.
Sure.
The show has, all the people I've talked to have said it's just getting smoother and smoother and better and better.
That's good.
And I've seen the cute new version of Taz that ejects a section and drives around. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's a fun little robot, isn't it? And and
it's very Donald in its way.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. LockJaw versus Bloodsport. I'm going to go down the line. Jevon, you first.
LockJaw. I think the rear plow game is always excellent, and if he can just keep that facing, then we may well see Bloodsport have a repeat of previously. Maybe not snapping, but I don't know. I think if he drives well enough, then LockJaw.
Steve.
I've gone with Bloodsport for similar reasons as I was kind of eking out in the Bloodsport talk through. I just think I can visualize Bloodsport getting to Donald's sides, ripping tires off, and that's just going to be curtains. I don't know how fast it would happen, but I don't know. I just have them squeaking by. It's going to be a close fight because I think Donald's going to go full bore, but we'll see.
David.
I have also gone for Bloodsport in this fight because I feel now that Bloodsport has better ground game instead of like the 3D printed stuff that just fell off every time. It can actually get in and get under like the triangle plow that we know we're almost certainly going to see. And I know Donald could drive around it, but I just feel like Bloodsport's going to keep on them this time. They'll be close, but I think Bloodsport will keep on them.
Well, I went for LockJaw. Because I'm basing it off the previous result, and I think it'll be the similar story. Pete, I have to ask, gun to your head, what did you think?
So I go Bloodsport. Not that I mean, I love Donald, as you know, I've known him for so long, but those tires are extremely juicy, and I think that the reach of Bloodsport can just sort of get tipped around the edge and be able to catch a tire. Not like the Donald's going to just give the side of the robot to Bloodsport, but the shape of Bloodsport allows it to sort of catch edges more, and it'll catch those tires. And that's my feeling.
It's going to be a tough one for both teams. You know, there's going to be a lot of carnage. You know, I think either way, someone's going to come out winning but hurting, I think, is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Number 13, will it be unlucky for Beta?
All right, so let's go into it. He's fighting Whiplash.
He's gonna
go.
Thing.
Is he going with the flat AR?
Surely he's using.
Is he going with the bodkin? I think
he's going to use the boat. And
you think he's going to use the boat, the Under Armour?
Whiplash is a lifter, though, man.
But it's got a vert. It's got a vert.
It's a lifter. Even Matt told us
I know.
Lifter's the main weapon.
If he's doing that, is he running the pill hammer, or is he going for the probable?
I hope he
hammer?
runs the pill.
I hope he runs.
You call this the pill?
This is the pill.
Yeah, this is the pill, and then
in the end,
and then you got the
mallet,
and you got the 2D one as well, which is the other one. I feel like if he uses the boat, it will just be a Whiplash win, because Whiplash will just get underneath him constantly.
I fully agree.
You're gifting. This match is going to be won or lost in the pits.
Correct.
I mean, that's the bottom line. If John gets too much in his head and he doesn't have somebody in his ear saying, "Put forks on it, put the wedge on," something.
Even if it's just the wedge. So for me, you know, there is historical data that the boat sadly doesn't work. You know, he's now fought 3 times with it. He fought against LockJaw and lost, Ribbot and lost, Black Dragon and lost. I don't see how that would change against Whiplash. With the wedge this season, Beta's been phenomenal. It's been you know, it didn't use forks against Shatter, and it just bullied it around the arena. Same with Bloodsport, same with
and you even go back to RotatoR Beta, where RotatoR could just not get a bite. Even though he was driving, he knew he had to take his weapon up to the top of Beta to try to do anything, but it was super ineffectual because the pyramid was too perfect.
Correct. You know? I don't know what John has done to make that wedge so good, because even when you use a plow on any opponent that's got a horizontal, like normally, you know, there's some kind of catch or something happens, right?
I know what he did. He went and saw the almighty Brit pyramid gods and said, "Oh, holy Brit pyramid gods, please give me the ultimate crown."
Any flipper in the UK is what you're saying, then, right?
Yeah.
Any Brit flipper.
I'd have to look back at oh shoot. You know, like I gotta think of like times where like Terahertz has fought a vert and what's happened, you know, because he's run the wedge.
Aftershock absolutely detonated it.
Well.
Yeah. So maybe we're being too hard on him. Where like it's what I mean, he's seen that not work before.
To be fair, I think Terahertz's wedge was not as good as Beta's.
No,
because Beta's wedge is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a floating wedge around the outside of the main body and everything, but it sits low enough in that all 4 wheels are touching the ground, whereas Terahertz is 2-wheel drive with
Terahertz has the tail at the back, but it's a similar mounting. It's still like floating armor, but the difference is
it's the tail at the back instead of the 4-wheel drive that helps it be more balanced.
Correct.
So I think Beta is actually, I think John would agree, Beta is a better robot than Terahertz.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go backwards this time. Pete, who you got? Whiplash or Beta?
If it's the boat armor, it's all Whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
not because he's your son.
Not because he's my son. Because you don't go against primarily a lifter.
Mm-hmm.
That Whiplash is, yes, it has a spinning disc, but that is not its main weapon.
Correct.
The lifting and controlling is what that robot is all about. And if you go the boat armor, you're toast. Correct. If he goes pyramid, like in this image, he probably has a better chance. And it could easily catch the lifter arm on Whiplash and probably do some damage if he does swing well with the right hit.
And Jason has been swinging the hammer well this year as well.
Oh, he's been awesome. What a breath of fresh air for Beta.
Yeah.
David, who you got?
I think no matter what setup Beta has, it's not going to go well against Whiplash. Like, we know Massey is just one of the best drivers in the world, hands down. And it's just going to be just driving circles around Beta, to be honest. I'd love to see Beta go well, because it's not a spinner, you know?
It's not a spinner.
It is a hammer, and hammers are fun, but it's not easy for a hammer bot to win in BattleBots, and even if it's just a lifter version of Whiplash, it's gonna have trouble. So I'm gonna go Whiplash.
Okay. Steve?
Well, in my bracket, I had written Beta. That was what I went with because they'd had such a great season up to this point. They had impressed me enough that I think it was going to go their way. But having had the more conversations with people, made brackets.
Are you getting bracket regret, Steve?
I am getting bracket regret because I really think Whiplash has a good chance. I mean, it's a tough draw.
It is for both.
Beta's had a great season. I think they've proven that this bot still has a lot to go. It's I don't know. Maybe I should have looked at their fight against Black Dragon a little closer. But
I mean, you were there for it.
It's so long ago. So I went Beta. Bottom line.
And Jevon?
Whiplash.
Steve's on an island.
Same reasons that everybody else has said. Basically, John cares too much about this setup we're seeing on screen of Beta to actually use it against anything that has a spinning weapon, and except if it's horizontal.
Spinning weapon in this direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He cares about it too much to use it against a vert, and
he may only have one wedge. That's a fairly.
That's also true.
That is also a possibility. I don't remember seeing
those
wedges.
Things.
Yeah, but it's not the same afterwards, is it? I also went for Whiplash for the same reasons we've always said. I think he'll use the boat, and I think he'll get beaten with the boat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though if they were to put a hole into this pyramid, Lincoln could come save the day with welding.
Mm-hmm.
We could fix it. It's fixable.
Okay, we've made it to a robot that Pete. I know you really want to talk about
pizza.
The pizza.
Yes.
Now, my question is:
the shirt I don't have yet.
Does pineapple belong in a pizza? Yes or no?
Yes.
Oh God! No, another one.
Yes.
We win. Yes. We win, team.
So
I have seen.
Let's step back and have a quick moment of let's go to some let's say some Chinese food.
Yes.
Let's say sweet and sour pork. How do you feel about that?
Excellent.
There's pineapple with that.
I know, but I pick it out. I pick it out.
So you're not fine with that, is what you're saying.
Sam just doesn't like pineapple.
I like the sweet and sour sauce. I like the pick the pineapple
just vinegar
out.
and honey.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Let's talk about Ripperoni. Let's.
Yeah.
I've seen
pizza belongs
online.
on. I mean, pineapple belongs on a pizza in my mind, but that's me.
Pizza on a pineapple.
That too. Same thing.
Gush
I've
away,
seen talk
Pete.
online about how this robot isn't deserving of much praise as it has got.
Leave.
And it's like, sorry, if you've been watching BattleBots...
This is what I say to online.
Yeah, pretty much.
Guys, this is what I say to online.
Yes.
Hey,
gush away.
I still have my fingers. I can pull my bow. Yes. This bot blew my mind as a technological marvel, like Blip did last year. Mm-hmm. What they've done in here with the counter-rotating gyro setup, the completely build from scratch motor that is driving this weapon that must be cooled down with dry ice to be able to run properly. I love this bot. And the fact that it's asymmetrical, just is so great in its shape. There's a old German plane from World War II. Was it a Henkel? There's this observation plane that has one really stubby wing and then a full length wing, and the motor, the engine pod, and the fuselage are offset. And that's what this reminds me of. It's so asymmetrical and weird. You're like, that'll never work, and yet it does.
And it does.
It
does.
It beat Endgame of all things as well.
The Endgame, and then it beat Hijinks, and then it beat Copperhead.
It beat our throats as well in that Endgame fight.
Yeah.
What a joy.
I love this bot.
What a joyous machine.
And also, I love this team. They are a great group of people just to hang out with and chat with. Fred's, of course, always just a big, huge amount of laughs and joking. But Austin, who designed this motor, is a brilliant guy, and he's so fun to talk to. And then, of course, the team led by Anna, who,
she's
my
fabulous,
God,
isn't she? Yeah,
she needs to be on camera all the time. She should have my job because she's better and more eloquent than I could ever be. So
it's funny. We interviewed her earlier this season as well, and we kind of said, was it daunting doing all the interview stuff, on camera, because this is the first time she's captained a team. Obviously, she was on Uppercut previously, but it's the first time being, front and center. And she's like, I mean, I do a lot of presentations and stuff, so it kind of came quite naturally. I'm like, I mean, I've been doing this podcast for 7 years, and I still hate it. It's just, it's fair play to her, and fair play to the team. They've really turned up with a robot that is a killing machine, and it's incredible, and it's worked. The concept worked, and it's wonderful to watch.
The term joke robot just needs to go and die in a hole. I think there's no.
It's a themed robot.
It's a themed robot, and there's nothing joking about it.
No,
being real,
there isn't.
Yes, it's the How Funny Pizza robot, but at the same time, it's a robot that a lot of other teams are looking at and going, "Oh, now
that's clever." Yeah,
I was watching the Waiachi streams they do last week, and Terry Hewitt is sat there singing Ripperoni's praises, and if you can get that man to smile about a robot, then you're doing something right.
Yes, definitely. And I have a feeling that with what they've done with the counter rotating gyro, there is going to be more verts that are going to take this concept.
I fully see Endgame using it. Fully see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that doesn't really get talked much about is we can go back to Blip and the difficulties of driving as gyro effects happen. So people are always going, wait, why isn't Blip flipping right now? They should be flipping. Well, because he has to spin up the flywheel.
Yeah.
Well, why doesn't he always have it spinning? Well, then he wheelies.
Then he can't drive.
This saw it last year.
Yeah, the thing drives like a vert when it's not one.
Yeah. And so I will say,
I was going to say, awesome. Ripperoni has Black Dragon.
Tough match.
I'll go first.
It's proved that it can die.
Proved that it can die. I'm going to go first. I've gone Black Dragon.
Really?
I have.
Is it historical?
Well, it was a rush of blood to the head, I think, because I think Ripperoni is a phenomenal robot, and if it can knock Black Dragon out, then it will win. If it can't, we've only seen one fight so far where we've seen Ripperoni go 3 minutes, and it struggled in that fight with Gruff. And I feel like Black Dragon's a similar kind of a disrupting presence, keep it hitting the floor, break something, and I feel like that will be what defeats Ripperoni. It will be itself, and I feel like Black Dragon is the perfect robot to do that. So I've gone with Black Dragon.
Okay.
Jevon.
After what happened to Endgame, I made a vow to myself to never sleep on Ripperoni ever again. And for every fight since, I've gone Ripperoni. I'm just looking back to make sure that's true. And the same can be said of the bracket, because you just can't factor in the chaos element that Ripperoni brings. Like, you could have a perfect game plan against Ripperoni, and then all of a sudden it comes with an aerial bomb attack at you, and you're done. And you're like, well, I can't. What? That's not in the game. I can't do anything about that. What? And so I think with what we saw from Monsoon earlier this season against Black Dragon was not having a fun time, and Ripperoni is Monsoon on acid, and so.
It's on pizza, Jevon.
It's on pizza. And so, I think Ripperoni...
Different kinds of mushrooms on this pizza.
All of the mushrooms just sprinkled on. Lovely.
Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas,
Exactly.
I think they could just bring the chaos, bring the hurt. Like, this is Uppercut dialed up another notch. And I think if we were looking at Uppercut versus Black Dragon in a world, we could see Uppercut beating it, and therefore Ripperoni being the better robot of those two.
Logic dictates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for audio listeners, you don't see me, but I just gestured at the screen in general.
Yes.
in full Italian.
Yeah, in full Italian. Steve?
I mean, I've gone for the pizza. I mean, what are we kidding here?
Yeah.
But
I mean, your name is of Italian heritage, so you feel like you have to.
It is. My name is of a city in the toe of the boot of the country. But yeah, no, I went for the pizza. I think Ripperoni brings forward quite a few challenges to Black Dragon that I think it's going to have trouble with. But Black Dragon's got this storied history now in BattleBots where it just doesn't die. I worry about Ripperoni's stability. I worry about the fact that they've had a couple fights now that have gone pretty quickly, and they've gone pretty quickly in their direction. And I will say I love the end game moment, but it's tricky because they were gifted such a big hit at the very beginning. So say if that stick doesn't happen, ifs and buts, who knows how that match or how their season goes, and I think back to their one fight with Gruff where where it just went haywire. I worry about hits from Black Dragon on this really tight compact chassis. But I've still gone Ripperoni, but I am tentative. But I really think this is gonna be a bloodbath. Both of these pots can hit hard.
They sure can. David.
I was very much on the pizza hype train still at recording for this, so I went for Ripperoni in this fight. Looking back on it, like with Steve, I do have the concerns about its longevity, but
pizza.
I still looking back on it, I think they've got enough.
Got enough. I really think it's
a really scary pizza.
The thing is, if pizza wins, right? It would then go on to face either Quantum or Ribbot, who I think it could beat.
Yes.
It then goes on to face one of Hydra, Death Roll, Beta, or Whiplash, most of which I think it could beat.
Really? You think it could beat Hydra? I don't think it could beat Hydra.
That's the one that I don't think it could.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Why you got to say the one, Steve?
It bounces and hits Hydra on top.
It does. It could just aerial bomb it, as I said.
Yes.
We could be looking at a world in which
powerful,
Ripperoni is in the quarterfinals and
or semis,
or semifinals.
I do have one theory though of what may cost Ripperoni, and it's the other side of the team. Because Starchild have had all sorts of bad luck this year, and if they come out as a full team, you never know. Brandon's bad luck this year may transfer to Ripperoni.
Oh, we're never gonna have him again.
I've screwed it. I've ruined the sponsorship.
That's why the sponsorship's over now.
Yeah,
I've ruined it. Sorry, lads.
Pete. I mean, I'm assuming you're going to back up the pizza as well, right?
I'm back up the pizza, but the issue is if it goes 3 minutes, it's probably going to go Black Dragon because of durability of Black Dragon and their ability just to survive. And what will be going on is Black Dragon will probably be, even though they may, let's say it isn't that damaging to Ripperoni, but their effectiveness of getting their weapon to Ripperoni will be higher than Ripperoni's chaos ballerina spinning around and a chaotic hit that once in a while smacks something on Black Dragon. So Ripperoni is definitely the harder bot to drive and get on target. So that, like in a judge's decision, I could see it going to something like a Black Dragon if it goes that long. But if it happens to be a first couple of hits, it's going Ripperoni's favor. That's my feeling.
Like Ripperoni has to get it done quick, otherwise I feel like the longer the fight goes on, the more you start to think, okay,
it's kill or be killed, isn't it? With Ripperoni,
it really is. Okay, this is one Pete robot. This is another one, Claw Viper. Come on, go for it. Take it away.
Go Gush.
God damn! I mean, it was so fast. I remember having a conversation with Kevin, and Kevin was like, "It's faster than I can think." Like it's already across the arena before I'm thinking of what I have to do to turn and get around, because it's so quick in its way and it sticks so well to the ground. I mean, I was so happy for Kevin after trying hard last season and not having the best time with the way the lifter worked and losing the lifter to different spinning weapons, to this now with the stop they put in to keep the weapon from lifting too far. And then of course the speed is a weapon. And it's ecstatic to watch. And this can be so fast that even bots like Endgame or other devastating bots can't really fight it because they can't get to it to deliver their weapon because he's too quick. So.
Yeah. It's a blur to watch. You know, the fact that there was that great clip of like where it was fighting Ominous, and like it's like, oh yeah, this clip isn't sped up. This is just a Claw Viper moving around like zip. It was like, huh? Having done a lot.
There's one that I remember Chris going, and oh my god, it's on the other side of the arena. I hadn't even finished sort of counting it in. The lights went off and it was there. Yeah, because it just was.
It's the closest thing that this reminded me of. There's a Beetle waiter in the UK called Gear Down for What.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and this is the closest thing that I can relate to, because Gear Down for What has essentially, well, what is effectively featherweight power in a Beetle. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It uses brushless motors as its wheels.
Yeah, you should see it. Honestly, Pete, if you get the chance to look it up, you should do, because it's phenomenal. But the way that it moves is eerily similar to that, and Claw Viper has had this amazing glow up.
Yeah,
I do wonder. This is the kind of the only bit of pessimism I have. Did he expect it to be this good? Because, you know, we heard that he had to use the old wheels on Claw Viper when he fought Hypershock. Limited spares. I wonder, you know, was he prepared enough for, like, okay, I've actually got to go on a big bracket run now?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was, you know, until we actually witnessed. Because, like I said, there's never a place to really test these. You don't,
especially not a robot like this.
Sort of to practice this. You might have an open street or something, but it doesn't really give you the sense of what it's like to shoot across 40 feet inside the arena, and how you have to turn and stop and spin around, and, you know.
And you can't use the magnets either, because unless you've got
you do that?
A 40-foot steel floor, which, you know, not many people do. You know,
yeah, weird flex if you did, but
very weird flex if you did. Let's talk predictions. David, we'll go with you first.
Oh, why'd you have to go with me first? I can't even remember who I went for on this one.
I'll look it up. David, you said Mad Catter.
I went for Mad Catter.
Did you? Did you?
Wow, good memory.
I think at the time, I just felt that Calvin's a very, very good driver, and I know they're two phenomenal drivers, but I just felt like Calvin would just do enough to get around to the side and the back to just snipe it. It would be close, but yeah, I just felt, because they are part of the family tree, much to Jevon's despair.
Don't bring it up again.
It's a long enough episode, we can. They know what the strengths and weaknesses of Claw Viper are, probably more so than most other teams. So they can just exploit it. So yeah, that's why I've gone for Mad Catter.
I've also gone with Mad Catter. I just feel like they're both teams on a budget. Okay, obviously one's a community college team, one, you know, is a team which, you know, is now running out of parts because, you know, maybe didn't expect to be doing as well as they have been. And I just feel like Mad Catter are a little bit more nuanced, a bit more nous when it gets to this stage of the competition. They probably know what they need to do to kind of like stretch all those parts out, and I feel like I think it's going to be an incredible fight, but I think it'll be Mad Catter coming out just about on top. Let's go Pete next. Why not?
I think it's going to be Mad Catter, because I think the damage the Claw Viper has already sustained, there's a lot of frame damage that's already happened. And like you said, Calvin can exploit those weaknesses. And he also, Mad Catter is no slouch in the hitting department. No. You know, even though it comes out with little small fry and lasagna, like, you know, these silly names for weapons, they still hit pretty damn hard and punt robots across the arena. And Claw Viper can't really sustain a lot of those big, if they're side hits, or even, you know, sometimes the weapon, the arm breaks or something like that might happen and take off a fork. And then it kind of makes it, just sort of ruins sort of what Claw Viper can do by being able to pick up and grab and move somebody. So
yeah, we saw that in its Hypershock fight, where like once it started to lose pieces, it just that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Steve.
I wanted to go Claw Viper. I thought about its fight heavily with Ribbot, not Ripperoni, Ribbot, and thought this is a very similar looking machine in a way, if you kind of squint. Vert with very similar kind of size. He could just pick him up and grab him. My problem was just thinking whether or not he could do 2 out of 2 the same way. I was tentative to go Claw Viper, so I went Catter for very similar reasons as everyone has said. I think these bots are both driven phenomenally well. I just think on the day it's gonna be Catter over Claw Viper this time. Claw Viper's had a spectacular run this time, so but I mean I very easily would have been happy. I'll be happy to be wrong if Kevin can manage to do 2 for 2 against really scary verts.
Devin, anything more to add?
I went Claw Viper.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, I'm the only person here who did.
A respectable choice, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I had trouble with this
for a
one,
lot,
honestly.
I don't know why.
Mhm.
I just felt it.
Okay, just vibes.
Okay.
I don't know why. It was in the heart.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looked good. I mean, a lot of my predictions this year have been heart over head.
Yes.
I've not really thought about many of them, but those that I have, I've definitely overthought, and so I went with my
I mean,
heart
to be
more.
fair, like at recording, we had like 2 minutes to think who was going to
Yeah,
win
we saw the
fight.
robots
Yeah.
being wheeled out, and in that time while they were being wheeled out to where they were being put in the box and turned on and everything, that's where we were going. So who's your prediction? It's like, oh god.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I'm at the bottom of the table currently.
Yeah, same. Race to the bottom, Steve.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
I don't know how I've done all right with that. It's
Yeah,
because I'm not there. It's
Yeah,
clearly. Number 10. Copperhead. We've already spoken a little bit about its dense
KO
bricky
machine.
nature. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, either KO or be KO'd.
yeah.
It's I am stunned the fact that it's kind of not well, certainly not externally, maybe not so much internally either, but like it's the same robot for the last 3
Mhm.
years.
And 3 different drivers have had 3 different levels of success with it, but all have
Right.
managed to make it to the bracket.
Mhm. But Luke's been around since the very beginning. So,
He
you know,
has.
even though he hasn't touched the sticks, he's very familiar with this machine. Geez, I mean, where do you rank Copperhead here? It's
Well, 10th.
yeah, but it's flat. You suck.
It's flat.
It's right there in the upper corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fair Steve.
It's got a very cartoon-esque, very thick black lines. I've always loved that about its redesign, its recolor after it's gone and rusted away. It's flattered to deceive, hasn't it? You know, it gets to the bracket or it just misses, or it gets in and gets hunted
gets mammoth
by a mammoth.
Yeah.
It's a very tough bot to back because of its past history, even though I love the team now. It's just
I don't know why we're even discussing this. It's fighting RotatoR. It's going to win.
No, if it beats RotatoR, it wins the competition.
Oh, yeah, that's
that,
the-
that,
yeah.
that, that,
That's the thing. That is the thing.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a bold statement. I like that.
Well, it's
Based on historical data.
This is confirmed historical data.
No, I get it.
Everybody who
Everybody who
beats
let
Rip-
us down here was Blacksmith.
there you go.
But that wasn't in the bracket. It was a play-in. It doesn't count.
A round of 30 and a half.
Yeah.
But they've had a nice season. You know, they had a really good opening run. Their first 3
They
fights
disemboweled
were awesome.
Bloodsport, and then they caused.
They hit the eject button on Triton.
Just,
They
the whole thing's
burst Bloodsport.
popped.
They burst
Yeah.
Triton. Who else do they fight?
Kraken.
Kraken, yeah.
Kraken, yeah. They
Yeah.
kind of bullied Kraken.
Yeah.
And then
Maybe
Very
a
unlucky.
small
driving error.
Yeah, a
That
small
was it.
driving error.
I do
against
think
Ripperoni.
that their one-hit knockout potential has both helped them and hindered them, though. It's one where I fully understand why they're number 10 seed, because the caliber of robots they've beaten this year are, you know, an 0-4 Kraken, 2-2 Triton,
2-2 Bloodsport.
and 2-2 Bloodsport, you know. But Bloodsport is a high caliber robot that has done very well previously. Triton is a rookie this year, despite the fact they had Deep Six previously. Triton itself is a rookie and an unknown. And, you know,
Kraken's like the ultimate unknown. Such a big change for that robot.
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
almost is like
surprising.
they're a rookie, but they're not, but they are. Yeah, so I don't know. It's been an interesting one for Copperhead, and I think the fact that Chaos has been their undoing in Ripperoni is Yeah.
That's what
Jevon,
what Lindsay wanted, right?
Yeah, but they told you to go for chaos.
Always go for chaos.
Well, Jevon, you've kind of given us the spiel about Copperhead. Are they beating RotatoR?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're going to win. They're winning the championship then.
Yeah. No. Right. In my actual bracket prediction, we'll get onto it later, but they're not the winner for me.
Okay.
No, I think Copperhead has RotatoR's number. They're brutal. They're so brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to imagine that Victor's going to want to protect his wheels, and if so, that's going to be more damage points. Against him. Drums tend to do well against forky things, and knowing Victor, I'm imagining he'll put some forks on, but again, that's potentially more damage points. So, it's going to be an interesting one. I think if they can get RotatoR overturned, then Copperhead can have its wicked way with them.
You think RotatoR will start Undercutter?
I think if you're being sensible, RotatoR starts Undercutter, and then I think
it wouldn't reach.
This is true. This is true.
Underneath the spinning disc, so you would never start it that way. It's got to be the Undercutter first. And I think they're going to. I'm Copperhead in this one because I think Copperhead's going to catch that Undercutter and just fling it. That's the way it's going to be.
Yep. Steve?
I've also gone Copperhead for very similar reasons. I just think it's finally its chance to make a run in the tournament. I think it's finally had enough issues, let's say, in the past where
it's dialed
kind
in
of I sure would hope so. If not, then we're going to be asking questions after the season. You know, like it's such a dogged regular season performer, and then when it gets to the playoffs, it just folds. So I really hope for the team's sake that it makes a deep run this time.
Okay. David?
I have also gone for Copperhead, although I'm well aware they are running out a little bit on spares because they lost a lot of Copperhead in that first fight against Bloodsport.
They did.
There was a lot of repairs they had to do after that. And of course they've lost their biggest asset in Clyde Magnuson, of course.
So I know.
They might be in big trouble without his help or hindrance or whatever, tick where applicable. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, joking aside, I know there are less members on the team in the second week, so there's even more work on those who are left behind.
Yeah.
But now they have the power of Billy.
They do have the power of Billy. Our Lord and Savior Jonathan is there, and he shall bring the almighty. I did a Billy face for our audio listeners.
Yeah.
I've also gone with Copperhead. So there you go. Copperhead is your 2023 champion of battle.
Yeah, good. And we'll see you next year. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's it. Number 9. Down into the single figures. We have Cobalt. Man.
Number 9.
A number 9 large. That was terrible.
With extra dip.
Okay. Cobalt.
Car number 9.
I mean,
brutal machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Best
scary,
fight,
isn't it?
Best fight of potentially all of BattleBots for me.
Yeah.
Is the most recent Cobalt Minotaur match. Match it was winning for 2.5 minutes of.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, like, perfect split of who was winning in the beginning to who won at the end. Like, it was amazing at how that turnaround happened. Blew my mind.
Yeah.
We were screaming in the control room when it was happening. Like, it was like, oh my God. You know, like, I can't believe it.
It was incredible. Like, what an advert for BattleBots, you know, in fighting robots. Like, you know, when you introduce someone to fighting robots in general, there's always that one go-to fight where you're like, oh,
this is going to be it.
Yeah,
going forward,
it's going to be this.
I have in past used Hypershock Gigabyte and Claw Viper Ribbot was also there to show what a non-spinning weapon can do. But yeah,
it's got to be this now, hasn't it? Really. Yeah. I'm going to start rattling through them a little bit because, you know, we have been going for a good while. If I had to guess, I would go with Cobalt.
I mean, they were your pick to win.
Exactly. I backed Cobalt to win the whole championship because last season they were phenomenal. They've now got Dave and Sam back in the team as well. Dave is a phenomenal driver. He's won Robot Wars. He's won King of Bots. Can they add BattleBots to the...
Going for the trifecta.
Well, yeah, right? Like, you know, it'd be rude not to. Jevon?
Me and David might have lost our tiny minds. and we were both very much on Team Monsoon at this point, and we were all in for Monsoon. And
we promised we didn't sniff the paint that we got them.
Yeah, there's a separate hype train going on here. On the Monsoon hype train.
Yeah.
On reflection, you think back to Cobalt versus Fusion, where Fusion's vert gets right in and ruins Cobalt's day.
Mm-hmm.
And that must have been somewhere back there in my mind, alongside the chant that Tim goes around every team member of Team Monsoon for and just asks them what they're going to do.
And what are they going to do?
They're going to fuck him up. And that's the mantra going into the fight. And I think that got stuck in my head. And so I went Monsoon, and no regrets, because I love both teams. I love both bots. But if I were to pick a favorite, Monsoon every day.
So, Jevin, I went with Cobalt, but here is the paint. Oh, you can't even see it. It's because it's clear. There it is. There's the paint of Monsoon trapped within a block of acrylic. You can see that. That's the Monsoon screw that they put into the little blocks of acrylic. So I wasn't sniffing the paint. I keep it trapped.
Nice. So, I can't see the colour of the paint. I got the wrong colour of the paint.
Yeah, this is the thing. If Tom had, or I think it was Sarah who sent the message across, if it had sent it across to me, who could see colour properly, we could have probably got the right colour. But Jevin was in charge, and Jevin is slightly colourblind.
What has been largely referred to as Thomas the Tank Engine Blue.
Yeah.
Instead of whatever Monsoon uses.
You guys pulled a Richard Broad Series 2 where he bought the wrong paint for Kilotron.
Yeah. Yep.
It was supposed to be pink.
It wasn't like marine grey or battleship grey.
Space grey, yeah, that's it.
David, I'm assuming you've gone for the Monsoon hype train as well, right?
I didn't sniff paint, but apparently
I think I must have dragged you along kicking and screaming.
I think so. Which
I definitely had some sway over predictions.
That seems like an analogy for Vegas in a nutshell, of just Jevin has dragged David down the rabbit hole.
Just like, come on, guys, you know that it's going to be this, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't go that way.
This is also like, how you lost money in Vegas, and I didn't, but this is...
Steve's gambling issues have been exposed once again. Have you gone Cobalt or Monsoon, Steve?
Since I left, I think if I had been there, I probably would have gone Monsoon.
We wouldn't have given you an option. You'd have been Team Monsoon.
I went Cobalt. I have Cobalt going quite a distance in this tournament. And I don't know. It just felt right, at the time to just see that this robot's been killing everything. And it only lost to Minotaur because it couldn't self-right. I just have a hard time not seeing it just boss Monsoon. I mean, I could be very wrong, but I just it's hard for me to see. Cobalt's been a scary piece of kit for the whole tournament so far.
So long as you put your money on the British vert, you're
looking good. You're looking good.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another green and black robot, SawBlaze. Now, SawBlaze have been having issues this season where they are shredding their tires. They've changed it.
Well, they were talking about this for the first two fights, and then just didn't seem to mention it. It doesn't seem to have been a problem, so I don't know whether they fixed that.
I know they were having trouble getting any form of rubber or epoxy to stick to whatever kind of rubber compound they've used for their wheels. Everything peels off.
Brazil wheels, didn't they?
Yeah.
This was their own special. There's a lot of special sauce that went onto the wheels of SawBlaze that I'm probably not allowed to speak about.
Okay.
That they did a lot of. There was a lot of experimentation and work that went into making those wheels.
I think there's some Teflon in there because it's non-stick. Nothing they tried to build these wheels up to try to fix them was working. I don't know if they fixed that. But yeah, having your wheels ablate themselves as you drive during a fight can cause problems, especially for the fight being 3 minutes long.
Right.
I'm not even going to touch that because it's such a high seated robot. They've had such success in the past. They just don't quite make it. Could something that small, either are who knows?
I've already forgotten. Who are they fighting?
Blip.
They are fighting Blip.
I've actually got SawBlaze down to beat Blip because I think the scale of SawBlaze will just kind of they'll bully Blip around a bit too much.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm SawBlaze on this one. I think they're going to engulf Blip, and Blip is going to have a harder time being able to catch a good edge of SawBlaze to actually flip it and do something with it. I think that SawBlaze is going to dustpan them and then just, whack the top and possibly even puncture. Hopefully they won't stick in like Hypershock, but we'll see. You never know.
David, I know you're a Blip fan to the end.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think on any other day, right, at recording, I would have probably gone SawBlaze, because I would have thought about the fight.
You didn't, did you?
I didn't think at all going into this. I just, Blip, that'll do. It's all hard. I believe it, Aaron. But you just well, right?
You just seen SawBlaze lose to another flipper in Hydra.
This is true. This is true.
This is a tricky fight for SawBlaze. It doesn't do flippers well.
Flippers that touch the floor. I think that could be the issue. Like Blip's got to get quite far underneath SawBlaze to do.
But they have good ground game more often than not. So yeah, I think if I'd have fought more, I would have probably gone SawBlaze. But it is Blip this time.
Jevon?
I also went Blip.
Wow.
I imagined that this was one where David brought me along with him. But no, I think part of me was thinking back to the Tantrum fight they had, and so yeah.
And Steve.
That's why I've gone with SawBlaze. I just think it's the size difference that really is messing with me. I agree with Pete. I think there's just too much of a size difference between these two robots that I don't see SawBlaze not catching. That was a lot of negatives. I don't see SawBlaze
struggling to get under and encapsulating Blip. I could be very wrong, because as soon as you upset SawBlaze and get it on one wheel or upside down, it's just free pickings. And Aaron's a great driver, so I fully expect this to be a tough fight on both sides, but I have SawBlaze just edging it. I've backed SawBlaze against Aaron before and it didn't pay off for me, so watch Blip absolutely dominate the fight now.
Wow.
There you go. Number 7. We're almost there. The former champs endgame.
Yeah. Current Golden Bolt, former champs, and then everything in between.
Does the bolt fit the nut?
It does.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It does indeed.
I don't think anybody has ever thought to test that.
Yeah. Wow. Not even on camera. Not even at the end of last season did someone test that.
We've been
screw the bolts on the end of that. Yeah.
We've been pretty sure Aaron did.
He did. Yes, he did.
Yeah. We've been recording very heavy.
We've been recording so long that Pete has become BattleBots Group. Who would have thought?
You've become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Does Farouk write his own intros?
Right. Where is Ray Billings this season?
Yeah.
Oh, no, where is Bite Force?
Where is Bite Force?
What's the deal with Helichopper?
There's not really much to say about Endgame. It's Endgame, isn't it? It's really good. It's really good. They are a well-oiled machine, and I mean, I have to back them against Tantrum because, again, historical data dictates that they will just do what they've done against Tantrum the last couple of times and just hit them really hard until they break.
Yeah. Their weapon rarely goes down. Rarely does Endgame lose their weapon. Mm-hmm. And if that's still spinning, anybody else who's at the other end of it is in trouble.
Yeah,
correct.
If they're spinning, they're winning.
Indeed.
In the right way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Is that a clean sweep for Endgame then on this one?
Yes.
No, because I know I dragged Jevon down
David!
on this one.
You back Tantrum.
Look, I'm going to back my favourite bot, all right? Regardless of whether it's in a sticky situation or not. And they are as we've discussed, they are the one robot that has caused a lot of issues for Endgame.
Absolutely.
They are a robot that can probably take down that weapon if things go wrong. They hit it hard enough, it can break. And let's face it, they're going to be gunning for beating that ground game finally on Endgame. So,
I remember the conversation we had, and it was surely this year is the year.
Yeah.
And so I've also gone Tantrum. Just through hope.
Are you huffing that copium at the moment?
hopium.
There was the lozenges that we had as well, courtesy of
3 lozenges a day.
Yeah.
Tough one. Definitely one of the ones to kind of put a ring around and like kind of highlight on your calendars. This one, Endgame and Tantrum.
Yeah.
Number 6.
What a turnaround. Finally,
So
we get to see Huge as it's supposed to be. I mean, we really haven't seen Huge like this probably since its first season, where it just took bots by storm. Wasn't the quickest around the arena, we realize, but this is what it was supposed to be. And I can fully empathize with Jonathan, where he says like every previous season, like it just wasn't right, you know. And it's so cool to see Huge do everything it was supposed to do. I mean, you think of its smaller counterpart at Norrock Finals last year, Huge, and just that bot's awesome. And this is just what that bot can do now at the heavyweight scale. Finally, no more weirdness, no more getting stuck outside the arena. Maybe there had to be some changes, you know, to kind of assist them, you know, a little bit. Not getting stuck outside the arena is very helpful. Like having your wheel kind of get stuck between the two panes that's one less way for Huge to fail with how thin a wheel they have. There's so many little things that have helped Huge kind of have this meteoric rise this season, and they've had a really great schedule to just rip through the competition. They've fought a lot of bots that you know are lower. You have one of the thinnest bots in Fusion. You have Shatter that was able to reach its body, and Blip is just this tiny thing. Where it was a very tricky thing to even have to, you know. It's just I just want Huge to win. So bottom line.
One of the keys that changed this season compared to past seasons is Huge came out of the box done. When they opened the crate, it was actually done. Like it had been done for quite a while, and they were able to, whereas before they were the morning of, like, your fight's coming up and they're still putting the two halves together and and it hadn't even gone through safety. But this year it was done, and it actually works the way Huge is supposed to always work. And that S bar has been brutal. Like that has been the definite weapon for them. That is sort of like, why would we ever use another weapon? Because this one works so well.
It's and past seasons, you had Huge changing the size of its wheels, size of its weapon, trying to, you know, find maybe over strategizing. Where now it's just this is the Huge, and this is what we see. This is it,
and it's clearing up, isn't it? They have Skorpios. Again, Skorpios is a robot that can reach it. I have gone for Huge because I just feel like Huge is on a mission at the moment, and well, we'll get to it a little bit later on, but I don't see much stopping it.
Either do I.
Yeah. This is the Huge that we all wanted to see, and honestly, it's got a nice run as well. Looking at its quadrant, it could really go to town with everything in its corner.
Having spoken to Jonathan for the last couple of years, you know, we've kind of said, you know, even with the Hydra thing as well and everything else, it's been such a difficult couple of years for.
That's in the rearview mirror at this point.
But even it's still got to affect you know, they've still got to think, okay, that's still a thing that's happened to them, and it's difficult to process that. And you know, they've had factors where, you know, the false start against Riptide, and you know, they've just had tough opponents to fight. Switchback can reach them, Whiplash can reach them, Uppercut can reach them. They've got a nice little run now. Potentially, I think. Well, we'll get to it a little bit later on, but I reckon they'll go quite far. I mean, is it a full sweep for Huge on this one? I
think it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if they get past Skorpios, if Skorpios does not take out a weapon belt, I could see Huge go all the way. Because I don't think, if I remember right, that bracket, that there's anybody that can reach the middle after that.
No. That corner is
really the key.
Jackpot, LockJaw, Bloodsport, Huge, Skorpios, Claw Viper, Mad Cat.
So maybe
it's really just Claw Viper
or Bloodsport,
or Bloodsport.
Bloodsport could possibly pull off an ice wave cutting, but with the Tigris wheels, like, I don't see it like this. I could see Huge go all the way.
I think Bloodsport's issue as well is getting to fight Huge, because they've got to go through some tough fights. But that's their issue. Huge is definitely a dark horse for the title. I mean,
to be fair, they'd only have to get through LockJaw to get there. Yeah, and Huge would have to win their fight against Skorpios. And
because LockJaw's got Bloodsport would have to be Doctor as well, or Jackpot.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, it's the way that I've laid out my bracket. Yeah, my bad.
Let's move on. Let's move on to another unbeaten robot so far. Oh, yes.
The pinnacle of British engineering.
Well, I was going
to say,
this is surely another Pete robot, right?
All British robots entered this season. All 4 made the bracket. That's
pretty awesome.
Impressive. It's very cool to see.
Pete, is this another one of those robots which kind of like push your buttons very well, or?
Oh, completely. I mean, it did way back when, at the first time they ever showed up. But, I mean, Brent and James, there are no slouches in the engineering department. And I love they also have a really good aesthetic. And that's something that makes me very happy is I love bots that look good too. They may not always be the most winning bot, but I love good looking bots. And Quantum, like this sort of plow catch is really well designed to absorb damage as well as keep other bots in it. And they've done a good job of that. So God, this bot just blows me away. The thing that frightens me is they only have one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And are they going to be more careful with it because they only have the one and they have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5
sort
fights
of
to win?
A beta scenario in a way with it.
If they're winning 9 fights to win the championship with one robot, that's a hell of an achievement. But
exactly
at this state of the sport, absolutely.
Yeah.
They are fighting.
One good catch in the back takes out a whole wheel pod. That's a big repair for them. So
correct. It's a lot of work to be done if they get
their path to the nut is difficult as well. Like after Ribbot, it's either Ripperoni or Black Dragon. After that, it's either Hydra, Death Roll, Beta, or Whiplash.
That's one thing I wanted to do before we started this. I would have loved to have gone through and given each bot like their worst case scenario. Maybe I'll write that up for the Facebook page. But
the bracket of death. Right?
What's each team's bracket of death? Absolutely.
Steve, get right in, mate. It's going to be it's going to be a long weekend for you. We're all Ribbot is fighting Quantum in the round of 32.
Yeah.
Has everyone gone for Quantum? I think so, right?
I believe that the power of a sprite will power Quantum to another win.
Sprite to the very end. Yeah.
Pete, what do you have?
I go Quantum. I think if they get a good bite, it's them.
Number 4 is Hydra, who I think has gone a little bit under the radar as to how good their season has been.
Maybe, yeah.
One loss to Tantrum, and the rest has been bullying.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Under the radar, how do you get to be number 4 and be under the fucking radar?
My point was like,
he's done so very quietly, comfortably. Like, there hasn't been a whole lot of weirdness with Hydra this time.
He's not been controversial. He needs to be more controversial.
He's just done his business. We haven't had a lot to talk about.
The show was more controversial for him than he was.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Hydra is a beast, and he hasn't had to change it very much, and it's still super competitive.
Yeah.
They were semi-finalists last time.
Yeah. If the formula holds, he makes the final this year and loses, and then next year he wins. So
there you go. But he wants to sell Hydra. He doesn't want to drive it anymore. It's sad.
But who's going to get it? It's got to still live on, right?
It's either going to go to Norwalk Havoc, end up in the land of the Dutch, or
Lars will buy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Hydra is fighting Death Roll. I think Death Roll will give Hydra some trouble. But I think
Absolutely.
Hydra.
I think Death Roll's going back to a land down under. Honestly,
frequent flyer miles provided by Hydra. I think for this fight.
Yeah.
Here's a question we haven't pondered recently. Is Death Roll kind of the right geometry for it to go high enough into the ceiling?
Yes.
Yeah.
If Jake gets the right, because Death Roll's so compact, if Jake gets the right corner or under the right bit, I think you could definitely get close to the rafters with the launch. But Jake's been doing pretty good with some of the height this season.
Yeah, I mean, RotatoR was up at our eye level as we were
same with free shipping.
Or stood at the very
free shipping was in the air for 2/3 of the fight, I think.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Stupid statistic.
Put wings on it.
Yeah.
I think
the first flying BattleBot. That's not a drone.
No, definitely not. Everyone's backing Hydra. I think, fairly logical, really. I think
Jake will make it through.
Yeah.
So potentially a rematch with Whiplash, depending on whether the USS Beta appears, but that's further down the line.
It is indeed.
I will say that Death Roll gets a nice side shot. You know, we've seen him lose that fight against Minotaur when they made the bracket the very first time.
We know there is a very juicy chain.
There is a weakness
there.
Yeah,
there is. Number 3, Witch Doctor. I mean, what can you say?
We spoke about it.
It's like
the
ultimate bridesmaid, but never the bride.
Yeah, it's just
even in the bracket here, where they had the chance of being the number 1 overall seed, and they just didn't get it.
Yep. Not this time.
But
what a beast.
Yeah, has had some really good fights. Has had some nervous fights as well this season. Fusion notably.
Oh yeah.
Where it was not going their way originally, but they were durable enough to outlive it. So,
is it Fusion? Was it the fight with Fusion that one of the armor panels got knocked off on one corner?
Yes.
I can't. Okay.
I mean, I'd seem to remember the wedge being ripped off in half. Yeah.
That Mike's driving was so on point and visible because he did something that I remember from years ago that Matt did when fighting Son of Boyachi is he lost a front piece of armor that was like the left side or whatever. And then he completely justified for the rest of the fight, the right side. Yep. And Mike did this same thing. I was watching, piece comes flying off, and then he just turned and kept giving the other corner to as the weapon. And it was great. Like he is a phenomenal driver.
Yeah, you can never discount Witch Doctor in the bracket. You know, when it gets to this stage, you know, it's even last year there were 20-something seed last year, and they still ran
2020. Though I think
there were 20-something last year as well.
Oh, they got well lower, weren't they? Yeah.
They fought. Well, it was meant to be Glitch, wasn't it? But they ended up fighting Mammoth.
Yeah.
I mean, Fusion hit Witch Doctor so hard in that fight that a piece landed back in England.
yeah, Witch Doctor 24 last year.
There you go.
But you know, it's. I mean, they kind of ended up being it's almost like they were gifted a 9 seed last year with that fight against Mammoth. It just wasn't going to go any other way. And then the thing is,
there's one scary bit with Witch Doctor where, like, they've said this is a newer version, right? And they're still not at 100% speed with the weapon. Like,
it can still go faster.
Yeah, it's still not peak Witch Doctor yet.
No. Will we see it against Jackpot? I'm going to say yes, we will, and I'm going to say Witch Doctor goes through.
Yeah, I think they've also benefited from going back to the single tooth, where they've had a split kind of Drisk weapon, not kind of.
I mean, last year
weapon.
when Witch Doctor was like in the bracket and doing all right with the dual disc, and then it brought out the single disc and absolutely bodied SawBlaze. I think that was a real sort of
okay then. Not bad. Not bad at all. Pete, I'm assuming you've also backed Witch Doctor to...
Oh, totally. And, you know, there's always the thing that Witch Doctor is BattleBots' darling, and we engineer stuff for them so that they win. Bullshit. They are that good of a team. They are that good of a robot. They are here because they got themselves here. Nobody made a path for them. They made a path for themselves.
Yeah. They are highly regarded because they keep winning, and if they keep winning, then what more can you ask for?
What else can you do at that point?
I think they were one of only 2 teams who are here in the bracket this season that have been in every season of Reboot BattleBots.
Wow.
Hypershock. But they haven't been in every bracket, have they?
They haven't been in every bracket, no.
Neither have LockJaw. So therefore, Witch Doctor's the only one.
Okay, well, then.
Yeah, with the loss
comments
with no braid, like
the hive mind. Get the hive mind out.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Well, here we are. I think the only reason...
I wish to talk only about the performance of the robot.
Yeah,
which has been phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a scary machine this is.
Outrageous.
It's daft.
It really is.
It is. Daft robot.
As Anderson used to say for Fight Force back in the day, Riptide is fucking daft.
It's absolutely
the way that it causes damage and the speed at which it causes damage is frightening. And you know, a lot's been said about the team and their ethical approach to fighting robots. ultimately, Ethan is also a very good driver. He delivers the weapon very well, and he points it at the opponent more often than not. It's going to take a lot to stop Riptide this year.
And they have put a lot against it in the bracket to potentially, or that could, in theory, defeat it. Like, you look at the opponents in that quadrant alone, you've got Shatter, who fought it last year, has previous, could do it. Hypershock went on a tear in Sin City Slugfest last year. Endgame, former champion. Tantrum, former champion. Even on the lower part, you've got the likes of Copperhead, RotatoR, Witch Doctor. There are so many things there that are big hitters. Huge as well.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many big hitters on their side of the bracket that they're going to have a tough time getting through, and kudos to them if they do.
Yes.
That egg beater is kind of at the pinnacle of all egg beaters at this point. I think it's one of the hardest hitting of all of them that we've seen. Even compared to Glitch, I think it's better.
Riptide versus Shatter, I think another clean sweep for this one.
It's
Riptide.
a sweep.
Yeah.
It is a sweep.
It's if
Shatter
just
all the way.
Yeah. Could you
Shatter
imagine?
the winner of our hearts.
Could you imagine?
I mean, I would love it, but it's Riptide.
It's a big ask, isn't it? I think, you know, they themselves were going into it maybe a bit pessimistic as well, which maybe doesn't help. But, and you know, as we said, they fought before. I feel like Riptide has made a bigger leap forward than maybe Shatter has. So maybe we'll see history repeat itself. Who knows?
I am interested. I know we spoke about Shatter earlier. I should have brought it up earlier, but we did a little chat with Adam in the pits. We did Pete's job, but worse. And one of the things that we were talking to Adam about was, you know, going forwards for potentially next season, they need to reassess how Shatter is in shape and everything, all of the geometries of it, because it's very long, very hittable on the sides and things. I think he said that they want to shrink it down, and that excites me because I look forward to seeing what a shrunken down, denser Shatter
could be,
potentially harder hitting Shatter could be. Yeah,
could it end up looking more like what you saw with it's the bot from Tampa, Extinguisher, looked like, where they had, you know, it's a stouter robot, you know, but maybe done with a bots FC style. So
yeah, who knows? Essentially,
we've made it all the way, guys.
Yeah,
number one, the Brazilians,
and
Minotaur,
deservedly so.
Yep.
Yeah,
what a robot!
This has to be their year, right? It has to be. They've won everything else everywhere else. When are they going to win BattleBots? This year, right?
Possibly this year. I mean, they are the number one seed.
Yeah.
In theory, the easiest run to the final. However, it doesn't always work out like that.
No.
Easiest run when you know there's SawBlaze and Cobalt in their corners.
Yeah. Two robots that they've had multiple fights. Well, SawBlaze they've fought once, but Cobalt they've fought multiple times now. And, you know, those are the two sticking points for me, I think, with Minotaur. If those two robots come face to face with it, they've got to do something different to they've done previously. Otherwise, it could be curtains for them again.
I have to ask Pete, obviously, before we kind of get to our last fight prediction, why Minotaur at 1 over Riptide? Because, as you said, Riptide has been a powerhouse all season. Minotaur has struggled here and there, you know, with Cobalt. It wasn't, you know, all smooth sailing. With Witch Doctor, it wasn't as well. So, what was the process of putting Minotaur at 1, not Riptide? Is it just pedigree
or strength of schedule?
Probably just pedigree puts it over the top. Like just the sheer amount of fights the Minotaur has under its belt that are amazing, unbelievable fights has pushed it this far. And I mean, his 4 fights were Witch Doctor, and now I'm completely forgetting everything else.
Witch Doctor, Cobalt,
free shipping, and Tantrum.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good schedule.
The only
and just swept them all
in there is free shipping, and that isn't even a gimme.
Because obviously the live scene, original sin has beaten Torre
at RoboGames 100 times before.
Yep.
So that was a pretty harsh lineup, I would say.
Absolutely. Minotaur versus Fusion is the last fight. Minotaur.
I don't remember.
Minotaur.
I think it's probably Minotaur.
Yeah, I think Minotaur.
Jevon says Minotaur.
Yes, it is me. Yeah,
I think
Minotaur.
I think Fusion has the potential to be an absolute party pooper, but I feel like I also think that if Minotaur looks at Fusion funny, it will just burst into flames.
Yeah,
And
just Daniel needs to give one of his trademark looks to mid-fight, and then it's done.
what a weird contrasting pair of people Reese Stewart and Daniel Freitas are.
Yeah.
Okay, we've made it all the way to the end. Well done.
Okay.
We can rejoice.
Yeah.
Yay!
In a word, we'll start with David. Who is winning World Championship VII of BattleBots?
Huge.
Okay. Steve.
Nice.
I wrote Cobalt. I wanted to go Witch Doctor, but I'm gonna make you feel good and say I went Cobalt.
Okay.
I'm on with Sam right now. I really think that's just I think it's time for the trifecta.
Jevon.
Huge.
Ooh. Okay.
I have Huge to take out Hypershock on the way. Hypershock was my original pick. But yeah, Huge to take out Hypershock once again and then go the distance.
Okay. Pete, before anything happened in the bracket.
I could not find my bracket, but I do know who I picked to win.
And it was?
Minotaur.
Ooh.
They just were on a tear. I just saw them going all the way. Even though they have a hard bunch to get through, I just see them pulling it off and making it through.
It is an absolute beast. So, leaves it
Sam?
down to me.
Yep.
Now, at the start of the season, I said Cobalt.
Yes, and I'm hoping you said Cobalt, but you probably didn't.
Do you know what? I've also gone for Huge. Purely because it's just, I don't know what can get it now. And they've just seen it on such a tear. We've seen damage unlike which we've ever seen from Huge, and Huge is my pick to win.
They're fighting the right opponents for them. As soon as they're providing they get past Skorpios.
Yeah.
They're fighting the opponents they really wanted to fight.
They are built for.
Their path through the bracket is favorable to them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. This has been an absolute joy, Pete. Thank you for so much of your time once again, and I'm looking forward to the next Bot Whisperings whenever that appears. And as I said, an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Once
Don't
again.
feel like we deserve it.
As always.
As
always.
And I'm sure as and when BattleBot Season 8 happens, I'm sure there'll be some of us there to get you a cider as well along the way.
I certainly hope so. I want to see more Union Jacks standing up in the stands.
We had some wonderful evenings discussing YouTube comments and things.
Oh god, the
Good
last night that was fun. Yeah.
It has been a pleasure. Next week is the start of the bracket, but until then,
you say next week. It's next week when we're filming it. It'll be this week.
Yeah,
for those who are watching.
It's currently whatever day of.
It's doing it now.
Yeah.
Go.
The future is now, old man.
I have been 764.
I've been Steve, the American Killjoy.
I have been Walter Woodrow.
I've been DavidofSmeg.
And I'm Peter Abrahamson, the Bot Whisperer.
And we will see you whenever we see you for the start of the round of 32. See you then.
There you go.